Hey, in the immortal words of Judy Brown, happiness is a choice. We're happy you're spending some time with us on an Off the Rails Thursday. I'm Chip Brown. He is Zay Collier. When he is on point and motivated, he's 13-7. 13.7 boards. When he's just kind of loafing through life, it's 10 points, 5 boards. Zay, what's going on, my man?
It's cracking, man. Happy Thursday, everybody. Feeling good, feeling great. How are you?
Doing good, man. More craziness in the NBA. How about those Knickerbockers who are just giving it to the defending world champion Celtics?
Yeah, it's been an interesting series. I mean, games 1 and 2, Boston Celtics up by 20 points in both of them and end up blowing the lead. The Knicks, they don't go away. Tom Thibodeau, we know he's a hard-nosed coach. We know he's a guy that could push his team a little bit too hard sometimes, especially with their minutes during the regular season. But he could coach. He's always had solid teams, and this team, they definitely fit his identity on being hard-nosed, and you see that, not giving up, back-to-back 20-point deficits, and they make the comeback, led by Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart, Mikal Bridges, those Villanova guys. OG Anunoby's been really good. Deuce McBride, former Mountaineer, him coming off the bench and giving them a spark. It's a very interesting series. And shout out to Mikal Bridges. He had the defensive play of the game, back-to-back games. First one, he stole the pass, and him and Jaylen Brown got tangled up a little bit, ended up snatching it from Jaylen Brown. And then in this game, Jason Tatum went up for a shot, decided last second to try to pass it out. And there was Mikal Bridges with those arms, man, getting in the way of that pass and stealing the ball. Like I told you, you said them Boston Celtics, you thought they were going to beat the crap out of these Knickerbockers. Not so fast, my friend.
Nope. They're not beating the crap out of anybody but themselves.
Yeah.
Well, that's not good. I'm not even a Celtics guy, but I thought they had everybody coming back.
Yeah.
From the team that won it all. So I'm sitting there going, okay, well, let's look at the rosters. And I thought the Celtics were the team to beat.
Yeah.
And I had the Nuggets. My preseason pick was Celtics Nuggets, and the Nuggets got smacked around like a tennis ball.
That was rough.
OKC said, yeah, we're not going to have it come down to free throws. We're not going to have it come down to Chet Holmgren at the free throw line. We're going to beat your ass by 40. God. And that's how it went.
In the playoffs. Good grief, man. That's hard to do. Yeah, I give you the heebie-jeebies. And shout out to David Adelman. He's done a hell of a job filling in for Mike Malone. But, yeah, OKC, Mark Daigneault, they showed why they're the number 1 seed all year long. SGA's a MVP, in my opinion, even though Jokic is the best player in the league still. And it looked like in that first game, Nuggets were still feeding off of the momentum of winning that game 7, and they stole that game. And who knows? Obviously, Chet Holmgren's free throws didn't help anybody, but how rusty was Oklahoma City having 9 days in between round 1 and round 2? So you could come out a little bit rusty. Game 2, they got their feet under them. It looked like the Nuggets were a little fatigued from the previous series in the last game. That, all right, we won game 1. We'll take that. We stole home court. We're good with that. And OKC, yeah, they beat down those Thunder last night. But, yeah, the Knicks, the Celtics, going back to them, it's hard to repeat. in any profession, any sport. It's so hard to go back to back because even though they have majority of their players from last season, life changes when you're a champion. You know that, Chip.
Winners get treated different.
Winners get treated different. This is Boston, by the way. They treat their winners like royalty. They love their sports up there. Love it. So I'm sure, Drew Holiday doesn't have to pay for much when he's there. White doesn't have to pay for much when he's there. You get all types of endorsement deals. Peyton Pritchard, he was 6th man of the year this season. So you think that you're untouchable in a way. And I'm not saying this is how Boston thinks, but we've seen it before. Like, this tends to happen to teams. They let up. They don't have that same edge because they already been to the mountaintop. So saying that, okay, we got to do it again, it's a lot. It's a lot, man. Jaylen Brown, he's not 100%. Something's weird is going on with Kristaps Porzingis too. They're talking about him having an illness back in March that he's still dealing with to this day. I don't know what it is, but he's not 100% either. Like, he gets pretty winded pretty fast. So the Knicks, they could care less. Like, Karl Anthony Towns, that was a good trade. I'll go back and say that was a hell of a trade that I thought both teams won. Knicks and Timberwolves sending Julius Randle and DiVincenzo to Minnesota and sending Karl Anthony Towns to New York. That was a hell of a trade because Cat is versatile. He will knock that three down. He'll post up. Him and Jalen Brunson's a tough pick and roll matchup. You can't leave Josh Hart open too much. He'll knock down the three. You can't leave Bridges and Anunoby. So their offense is money, and their defense is tough too. Like, you can't sleep on that either. And when Jason Tatum's going to play like he's doing, passive, he looks timid out there, not attacking the rim. It looks like his shot is messing up again, like what we saw from last summer where Steve Kerr didn't play him in the Olympics in France because it just seemed like he lost his confidence, even though he came off that championship, which Jaylen Brown was the MVP for a reason. Jason Tatum did just enough, and it goes to show all those other guys and role players how good they are. But Jason Tatum doesn't look right. His shot doesn't look right. His mind doesn't look right. It's very odd for him to have those games that he did where, dude, game two, 13 points? You're supposed to be their all-world franchise player, and all you can rack up is 13 points. And then game one, he has 23 points, which is a lot better, but it took 23 shots to get those 23 points. That ain't no good.
Ain't no good.
Ain't no good. So
Jason Tatum's a weird superstar to me.
What's weird about him?
He just, I don't know. He's got like interesting, if we're studying body languageology, he's got weird body language.
Yeah.
He can look almost disinterested, but we know he's capable of tearing it up. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. That's for sure. And then the Pacers, I mean, Halliburton just keeps hitting game winners. Hell yes.
Halliburton, man. Look out. That Indiana Knicks series, Eastern Conference Finals. The NBA likes that series.
I'm cheering for the Pacers, man. I'm cheering for Miles Turner. Let's go.
I'm cheering for
Miles Turner. Too. Get you one.
But I've never seen New York win before. I've never seen them have success. Like, I was way too young in the 90s to really know what was going on, even though I clearly know my history when the Knicks were getting to the finals and losing in the game 7 to the Rockets, where John Starks had the worst game anyone could possibly have in the game 7. I think he went like 1 for 14 from the 3-point line, something like that. Like, I've never seen the Knicks thrive like this because you just always knew during that Carmelo era, he wasn't going to get over LeBron. He wasn't going to go through King James. You know, just Carmelo, he didn't have the soldiers around him. to do all that. So you just never had faith in those teams. Then the 2000s where they had Marbury and guys like that. Marbury wasn't doing nothing. But this goes back to what my man DGD Dog 31 talking about. Like, I was not even thought about during the Clyde Frazier, Willis Reed, Dave the Butcher days, Phil Jackson. I wasn't thought about. That's a long time ago. We're talking early 70s. It's a long time ago. Bernard King, guys like that, like, paved the way for these new Knicks. New York loves their basketball. They feel like they're the mecca of basketball.
Well, you know what you love about Jalen Brunson is the guy, he's just relentless. Like, he's relentless in a way that a guy like Carmelo Anthony wasn't. Carmelo was blessed. He's a 6'8", 6'9" shooting guard. Brunson has, like, the odds are against him. His size, but what he does is he just uses that basketball IQ to get where he needs to get. He doesn't look like Michael Jordan, but he has moves like Michael Jordan where he goes baseline and then curls right back in for a wide open layup because he's able to, get guys leaning a certain direction. And then the fact that he wants to take every big shot. Like, he's the antithesis of James Harden. He's going to hit the big shot. Who he reminds me of is Chauncey Billups.
Yeah, it's a good comparison.
Like, Mr. Big Shot.
Mm-hmm.
Not the biggest, not the fastest, not, the longest. But, man, when it comes down to it and a game's on the line, I want Jalen Brunson handling the ball.
Yeah.
Like, I was pissed he wasn't on the Olympic team.
Who would you taken off?
I mean, Tyrese Halliburton, but now that sounds crazy, right?
It doesn't sound crazy. It's just one or the other, I guess.
Or hell, Jason Tatum, the way things are going. But yeah, I mean, the 99 Knicks. I was at one of those finals games.
San Antonio?
Yeah.
Knicks team was weird, man. They were an 8th seed. That was that 50-game season because of the lockout in 99. So it was a weird year. Allen Houston hit that shot against Miami. That was crazy to send them to the finals. I want to say Larry Grandmama Johnson had that and one against Indiana and 1-3 that helped them advance too. But they had Sprewell and Charlie Ward, and Patrick Ewing was hurt, but Marcus Camby was starting to kind of fall into himself.
There you go.
Solid pro.
Go, Zay.
Weird. Oh, yeah, I know my history. Come on. Don't want to talk history of basketball with me. I'm the one to do it. But, yeah, that Knicks team, too much Tim Duncan. Oh, Avery hit that shot in the corner. He wide open, gonna knock it down. Give me the ball, pop. Give me the ball, pop. I'll knock it down, baby. They gonna double team on Timmy. Timmy, if you throw it to me on the left side, I'm wide open. Show corner, baby. Knock down, baby.
Oh, man.
Shout out to Avery, man.
We got to get Avery on the show, man.
Get Avery on the show.
He might
he
be.
For CBS. You should make some calls. I'll be seeing them do them CBS channel games where it's like real mid-major, but solid basketball. I'm like, oh, look at Avery, just love of the game. Running.
Love it. Avery, Mike Tyson, Johnson.
Spicy Mike Tyson.
Oh.
Yeah, my Mike and Avery, a little similar. I ain't gonna lie. Very similar.
Well, we'll we'll circle back to some hopes. But Steve Sarkisian sat down with Josh Pate, my colleague over at CBS Sports 24/7 Sports. Josh Pate, college football show. And Steve Sarkisian had some interesting things to say, including that, forget Quinn Ewers' legacy on the field. Quinn Ewers' decision to transfer to Texas was a key development in the growth of the Longhorns because of the other players he helped bring to the 40 acres. Steve Sarkisian said, if Quinn Ewers doesn't come, I don't know that the next 5 guys are coming. And if those 5 guys don't come, I don't know if the next 10 guys are coming. And if those 10 don't come, I don't know if the next 20 are coming. So in addition to leading Texas to its first conference championship in 15 years, leading them to the SEC title game in their first year in the SEC, to back-to-back Final Four appearances in the college football playoff, Quinn Ewers was a Pied Piper at a time when Texas was coming off a 5-7 season. And it was the, faith that other players had. Other players want to play with great quarterbacks. Makes sense. And so, it's crazy to me that the Quinn Ewers legacy question is a question. Like, what do you think, Zay? You think most Texas fans feel like the Quinn Ewers experience was a positive experience? Like, his numbers say he's number 3 behind Colt and Sam, in terms of passing and touchdowns. And what do you think?
I mean, I don't understand it, but somehow there are 2 types of Texas fans when it comes to Quinn Ewers. They're the ones that are pretty objective and go through everything that you just said about the numbers that he put up, and understanding that the dude sacrificed his body for the university and might not have been 100%, but gave it his all to be there for his team each and every Saturday. And then there's that other just ignorant ass Texas fan that says Arch Manning should have been the guy this whole time and Quinn should have transferred from the jump, which doesn't look at the fact that he was injured a lot of his career, looks at all of his, accomplishments as a high school player, being so highly touted as a recruit, and just sees that and doesn't really understand why it didn't translate as perfectly to equal national championships, which a lot has to happen there, but there's just both sides to it. I think he's appreciated more the fact that he's not here anymore instead of still in the moment. But the Arch Manning situation, that doesn't help anybody. I think that puts blinders on people to where that's all they saw was him as a backup, especially when Arch got a little taste of success, got a little taste of playing time, because it was just so easy for that ignorant Texas fan to be like, see what we're talking about here? He's better. He's better. What the hell, Sark, what are you doing? It doesn't make any sense, which it's hard to see a sample size of what Arch Manning was. We see the potential, but you're playing UTSA, ULM, Mississippi State. Yes, that's the SEC, but Mississippi State was at the bottom of the Southeastern Conference for a reason. So I think there's just
all home games.
Yeah, all home games. Like, the adversity for Arch, we haven't seen it yet. I guess the most adversity that he's had was getting his head knocked in against Ohio State when he ran it that one time, and then we never saw him again. So you started to get speculation of him having a concussion. I do that in air quotes. But I don't think Quinn Ewers is appreciated as much as he should be. that the biggest thing for me with Quinn, which he always will have my respect, is the oblique injury and him playing through that. Like Derek Carr had the same injury. They wrapped it up for him. This is the league. This is the NFL. They told Derek Carr, like, yo, bro, if I were you, I'd probably sit this out. I'm sure some people were telling Quinn Ewers the same thing. Like, hey, man, I don't know if it's worth it out here. And Quinn was like, you kidding me? I'm not wasting it. This is it for me. There's no next year. There's no 2025. Steve Sarkisian, the coaching staff, and I, we laid out what this season 2024 was going to be. I'm going to take every opportunity, if I can, to go out there and perform and be there for my team and be there for this university. Quinn will always have my respect with that. So even though it wasn't picture perfect all the time, they were close, and everybody played a part of that. Steve Sarkisian talked about in that same interview with Josh Payne, that self-evaluation. He's his biggest critic. After every game, he breaks everything down and says, man, he has an example of, man, this player, he's getting grilled on social media. Was it my fault for putting that player in that situation for him to fail there? I respect that from Sark. I thought Sark had those moments. So you can't put everything on Quinn on why Texas didn't win a national championship last year and this year. And I think Texas fans, they'll have a better appreciation of Quinn Ewers as time passes.
Yeah. Yeah. It's tough. I mean, no one wanted to have a healthy final season like Quinn did. And I thought when he was healthy, he was outstanding. I mean, really, it was the Michigan game. I just remember watching that first half and thinking, this guy's impervious to everything going on. The roof was coming off the place, 111,000. Michigan's defense was legit. And the guy was just making one great decision after another, 6 of 8 on third down. 24-3 lead at halftime. I mean, it was incredible. And then, as you say, the oblique injury and all the what if questions and that kind of thing. But I think there is an expectation by a lot of fans that Arch is just going to come in and light it up. Like, improve on where Quinn was. And that's a lot to put on a guy who's never started a true road game and is going to be playing at Ohio State, at Florida, at Georgia. Is going to start the Red River Shootout for the first time, which can be a total mind scramble because of the 50-yard, seating and the fact that the sound never goes down. And when you're in the OU end of the field, it's bonkers and all that.
John Mateer, the next John Elway. That's what they saying. I'm telling you, they're saying John Mateer.
Hey, John Mateer, this is the Diego Pavia story of 2025. OU hired his coordinator to come in, and they got the quarterback. And if that is the case, watch out. Diego Pavia changed everything for Vanderbilt. So, and look, Venables had Jeff Lebby and things were good. They won 10 games. They beat Texas. Lebby goes to Mississippi State. Venables hires Seth Luttrell. It didn't work. That hurts because when you hire a coordinator, and I always say a defensive-minded head coach is going to be made or broken by the offensive coordinator he hires. Steve Sarkisian is going to be made or broken by the defensive coordinator he hires. Sarkisian's got a defensive coordinator in Pete Kwiatkowski who does not want to be a head coach. He's good. So that's allowed for consistency and guys to grow in the system and pass it on to the next. Whereas Venables cruising with Jeff Lebby, Lebby leaves, he makes the wrong hire, takes a step back. Now OU is all in on John Mateer and, the former Washington State offensive coordinator. So, and he's young.
Yeah, he's like 29.
29. So Venables, he's, we'll see. We'll see if that works out. But their defense should be better. Well, I say
Ben
that.
Arbuckle. That's his name, Ben Arbuckle.
Yeah, Ben Arbuckle, the 29-year-old offensive coordinator now at OU. But OU spending money. They went after Jim Knowles. They didn't get him. He went to Penn State. And we'll see.
Jim Knowles didn't want Brent Venables' evil-ass breath hanging behind his ear all the time. Jim Knowles knows, he wants to be the man down there at Penn State. That's what happened down there in Ohio State. The boys weren't giving Jim Knowles enough freedom. Do y'all not understand?
Well, they weren't talking to him about his contract.
Yeah.
It was coming to an end. He's like, hey, can we do this?
Disrespectful. Ryan Day should have been vouching for Jim Knowles there.
What was Ross Bjork, who used to be the athletic director at A&M, what was he thinking? So you gotta have some awareness. But Ohio State hired Matt Patricia as its defensive coordinator. So let's see how that goes. He was a disaster with my Lions.
I know. I'll take that. I'll take that version of Matt Patricia. I'll take that. Him at his worst with your Lions. So Arch and them boys could go in the shoe and put up 50 like it's nothing. And then come home and get ready for the rest of the season. Put the whole nation on notice that, oh, man, Texas for real. And you know what they going to say? Of course Texas should be winning like this. $40 million. Of course. Texas should be blowing teams out. We're going to hear that all year long. God, they got $40 million. That's why this success is showing its ass out here. All right.
Well,
whatever.
Who's the new CBS? Who's the new Ohio State OC? It's Brian Hartline, former receivers coach at Ohio State. He's been elevated. So, yeah,
Is
new
he calling
cast.
the plays, though? That's the difference between being an offensive coordinator chilling and then being an offensive coordinator and calling the plays. Because Chip Kelly was calling the plays.
Right. Ryan Day has said, I'm not calling the plays.
Wow. Look at Ryan Day.
He's trying to be more CEO.
It worked last year. You know what I'm saying? That's the only thing I hold over Steve Sarkisian. I get he loves it. We all know he loves it. He does a really good job at it. One of the best play designers you could possibly have. But with the negative energy that we've seen sometimes, would he be better suited as a CEO? I don't know. Well,
let's bring in Lance Taylor, our SEC insider and prognosticator of lanceslock.com. Of course, next round live there in Birmingham, Alabama. LT, we were just talking about, head coaches who call plays. Ryan Day elevates Brian Hartline to offensive coordinator. Isn't it your understanding that Hartline will call the plays?
Yeah, and that is a well-respected guy. I'm a little surprised that Hartline hasn't gotten some mid-major offers already. Maybe he has behind the scenes and he just kind of kind of push those offers off. But that is a well-respected guy in that program and in college football ranks. So that is my understanding. And I also think that sooner than later, he will be a head coach. I wouldn't be surprised at all if he gets offers after this season.
Yeah, because Steve Sarkisian, Zay's little hesitant on Steve Sarkisian calling the plays and being the head coach, but Sark, he still loves it.
It's tough. I guess Mike Gundy still does it, right? I mean, most of these guys, Lane Kiffin, Kalen DeBoer to a degree, Ryan Grubb coming back is going to give him a little more autonomy to more so delegate than have to call on the plays. But it does seem like a massive responsibility. I mean, look, going back, I always take it back to my Rams. Sean McVay still calls the plays. He's got that title holder. They collaborate. There's input there, but ultimately at the end of the day, the guy calling the play is Sean McVay. Kyle Shanahan does it. So, I mean, guys do it all over the place. It's a lot.
Yeah. LT, Nick Saban, I guess with Donald Trump and this and that and the third, trying to figure out what's going on in college football. Everybody always talked about Saban being a commissioner for college football, but he seems to stay in it and wants to change. How do you see that working out?
Well, okay, so you guys were telling me the billionaire is named Texas Tech, and I know he's going to be a part of this. What's his name again?
Yeah, Cody Campbell.
Yeah, Cody Campbell. So, I mean, you get a billionaire. Cody Campbell's a billionaire, not because, he just found money. The guy's obviously very intelligent and, knows how to work angles. And Nick Saban, I mean, really, if there was a perfect commissioner for the college game, it would be Nick Saban. I think he loves the game and he would help it out as much as possible. I don't know anybody that would want that job, but when you get his knowledge, his reasoning, and I think he does want to do what's best for the game. And I think one of the reasons that he got out a little earlier than maybe he would have wanted to was because of NIL. But I think when you get a billionaire and him together and you just get the importance of knowing, and, people can take the shots at Trump all they want, but if you do have a sitting president that knows the importance of finding out what the guardrails are for college football, and you get those three minds together, I don't know if we're going to come up with a solution, but I would assume we're going to take steps in the right direction to maybe get those guardrails in place. I don't know what they look like. I have no idea. But obviously, with the way the movement of the portal and the continued demands on guys wanting more and more money, and there's no contracts and teams have no idea what the rosters are going to look like. Back to Sark, it's one thing to recruit, to run a top-notch program, to have your assistants under you, to call plays, and then to try to balance your roster based on guys that want more money here and there. I don't know how these guys do it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fascinated because I don't know how you put any teeth in anything without collective bargaining, which requires employees, and they're doing everything they can to avoid that. But we'll soon find out.
To avoid that, Chip, I do think the simplest way is employees, union. I mean, basically, college football has copied a lot of things the NFL has done because the NFL is the top professional model. There's a reason it works out. There's a reason we do have good parity in the NFL. I think the number is 6 teams that made the postseason before on average don't make it again the next year. So it's the constant turnover. I know a lot of the top tier programs might not want that, but if you want balance and you want, true parity in college football, I think, and for the sanity of these coaches, just to have, and look, I know people are going to take the other angle. These coaches jump jobs all the time just for more money, but they've got buyouts. So there is a penalty on the other side. It's not like they can leave clean and free. There is nothing that holds these athletes to anything right now.
Yeah. You're gonna see schools suing student athletes to hold them if they start putting buyout language into the contracts, and we've heard Kirby Smart talking about fining guys, withholding NIL money for off the field idiocy. It's gonna get interesting. There's no doubt about it. LT, who's the team in the SEC we're not talking about enough right now?
You guys are not going to want to hear this, but I'm going Oklahoma. I am not sold on. I'm not sold on Brent Venables 100%. Obviously, the guys knows defense. I didn't think last year was a complete disaster. The offensive line was bad. Obviously, well documented how bad the skill was with the injuries to the receivers. Really didn't have that go-to running back, and had two really inexperienced quarterbacks. Well, now you bring in Ben Arbuckle. I love the offense. John Mateer. You get a guy like Jaden Ott. The offensive line has got to be much better. The receivers are going to be healthy. Schedule's still really difficult, but I think Oklahoma's that team. I'm not going to say they're going to be as good as what we remember with Lincoln Riley, but I think they're going to be good. And we even saw it in spots last year. I mean, the complete domination of Alabama. And I know Jalen Milroe was awful that game, but still 28-3 where everything was on the line for Alabama in Norman last year. I think that shows you the potential of that defense. And when you start to get an above average, even an average offensive line, the offensive line was awful last year. And I think that killed the confidence of Jackson Arnold. And then Hawkins comes in and does what he can do. But the offense was a mess last year. I think it's going to be much improved with Arbuckle running it. And I think Oklahoma's that team.
Lance, there are a lot of people talking about Shane Beamer in South Carolina, and some saying that Lenore Sellers is a dark horse player to win the Heisman this year. Would you agree on that a little bit, or how do you think South Carolina is going to do here in 2025?
It's so funny, Zay, that you asked this because, and this is part of this, but our social media director asked me, she was like, will you rank 1 through 16 quarterbacks right now in the SEC? And I'm like, my God. That is a lot, especially with the fact that, 2 or 3, we're not even sure if they're going to be the starter or not. But I did it. Very subjective exercise. But I cannot tell you how much criticism and hate I got from this list. And back to your point, Lenore Sellers was my number 1 because I just think pure potential on guys I've seen. I think Sellers can be that good. Now, with that said, how good is the skill around him going to be? They've got a really difficult schedule. Vegas has got their over-under on wins, 7.5, which tells me they're not going to have the season they had last year with the 9 wins. But I think Sellers is a special talent. If he can stay healthy, get a little more consistent, overall sample size, he's the best I've seen of the SEC quarterbacks. But I will tell you that exercise, I don't know, and I'm being serious here, I don't know if I've seen that much feedback on one thing that I have done in 2, 3, 4 years.
Oh man, we got to get this tweet then, right?
Yeah, you
this
need
list?
It was 1 through 16. So, and I'll just kind of tell you, I'll try to navigate what I remember. So I had Lenore Sellers at 1. Again, I'm big on Mateer. I think Mateer, and everybody's like, he's not going to be able to do it in the SEC. You got to remember, he's going to have a lot more around him than he had at Washington State. I just remember watching him late night, some of these games, just not only his ability to make plays, but what he was able to do with his legs. I think he went for like 197. I guess it was against San Jose State in that double overtime game on the ground. This guy is a big time talent. So I had Mateer 2. I had Nussmeier 3. Kind of wanted to put Nussmeier 1 or 2. I do think he might be the most consistent of the bunch. And then I had Arch at number 4. And there were some people that were like, you've got Arch too high. A lot of people said you got him too low. And I'm like, I don't know. Like, we didn't see him start meaningful games and play, a full 60 minutes of these meaningful games. We saw him in packages. We saw him start against, some very average teams. So I don't know what you get with Arch. And again, it's very subjective. There it is. Damn, that was quick. So you guys picked me apart. I went back after everybody was so critical, and I looked at it again, and I was like, I don't think I would change anything.
Yeah, DJ Lagway at 5, Jackson Arnold now at Auburn at 6.
Yeah, and the other team that I look at this year, Chip, that you asked, I think Auburn's going to be much improved, and they need to be for the sake of Hugh Freeze. I think they finally have really good receivers. You go out and you get an Eric Singleton that can do everything for that offense. You got a Cam Coleman coming back that really showed out late, was a true 5-star receiver. And Jackson Arnold didn't have a fighting shot. The dude was sacked almost 50 times last year. So the offensive line is going to be better. I think Jackson Arnold is going to be a surprise there.
So what did you get picked apart most? What blowback did you hear most about your ranking of the 16 SEC quarterbacks?
Lenore Sellers way too high. Diego Pavia way too low. I don't know what you do with a Vanderbilt quarterback. I don't think Vanderbilt's going to sneak up on anybody. I would be absolutely shocked if they knock at the door of 7 wins again. I think Diego, he's a battler, fun guy, perfect for that program. But here's the way, and so we talked about this on the show yesterday when people were really critical. I just asked people like Diego Pavia, the teams in front of him, you guys tell me how many of those coaches would say, yeah, I'll trade my quarterback for Diego Pavia.
Yeah.
And yet,
really Simmons.
I just got done saying that John Mateer could do for OU what Diego Pavia did for Vanderbilt.
Look, Mateer is much more talented than Pavia was. And look, and I saw Pavia in 2023 go into Auburn and slay them. And, one of the reasons that Clark Lee and Vanderbilt probably went out and got him. But, yeah, I agree. I think Mateer coming into this league is going to have much more of an impact than Pavia did. And we saw what Pavia was able to do getting them to 7 wins. And that was kind of this exercise. Like, I think most people, if you were drafting blind, most people would take Arch Manning based on the name and, pedigree and all that kind of stuff. I can't do it because I haven't seen enough of it. Yeah. But outside, I don't know how many teams – I don't think Shane Beamer would trade Lenore Sellers for any quarterback in this league. Do you guys?
No.
I don't. DJ Lagway, I would have him higher. I just don't know about the shoulder.
Yeah. Yeah, Lagway he's scary.
Yeah, and there was a lot of A&M fans, you're sleeping on Marcel Reed. Well, maybe. I got to list 16 of these guys, and he didn't blow me away. I thought he was good and solid. Another one of those guys, Taylon Green. I think Taylon Green's a really good athlete. But there were Arkansas fans. Taylon Green might be the best quarterback in the league. No, I don't think so. We'll see how this thing plays out. But yeah, man, people, all over the place. Jackson Arnold way too high.
You got Gunnar Stockton at 12.
Yeah, that's the one where I'm like, okay, Lance.
That was my most, when I look back at this a couple of times, my most questionable was Stockton. You guys remember this well. It's like all of his teammates rallied around him when he came in that second half. The Georgia Dome was going nuts. But outside, the highlight for me with Gunnar Stockton was the hit he took on the goal line. So, I don't know how good he's going to be. I assume he's going to be good. But, this isn't the first time Kirby Smart has started what seems to be a quarterback that is below average of everybody else on that roster's talent. We saw it with Stetson Bennett early in his career. Stetson Bennett ended up being an elite quarterback. I'm not seeing it from Gunnar Stockton right now. He probably is too low. It's kind of hard to imagine you've got a national championship contender on there with Gunnar Stockton. But I go back to, Alabama winning national championships with Blake Sims and Jake Coker, and, you got enough talent around it can work. Stockton was just a tough one to figure out.
I can't even see the names of Mississippi State and Kentucky's.
Yeah, so Mississippi State's interesting because a lot of Mississippi State fans are like, you don't understand. We've got this five-star freshman that's coming in, and he's supposed to be really good. He played well in the spring game. I just assumed that Blake Shapen, and you guys remember him from Baylor, I assumed he was going to be the guy at State. But again, Jeff Lebby in year 2, is it one of those things where he goes out and he's like, I'll play the 5-star guy playing for the future. And if I lose a bunch of games, people will understand because we're building for the future. So I think Mississippi State is kind of in play. Kentucky, it doesn't matter. Whoever plays quarterback there, it's a black hole.
Okay. Lance, Marcel Reed, A lot of people are hit and miss on him. A&M fans think he's going to be the next Johnny Manziel, and I see the flashes, but I don't know if I would have. Who was their last quarterback that went to Houston? I don't know if I would have taken Reed over that guy.
Even going back, Zay, how about this? So A&M fans that bitch, and look, I didn't get into the whole Twitter debate and interact with them, which I should have. But if you ask right now, either Brent Key at Georgia Tech or Mike Elko, you can have one of these guys, Marcel Reed or Haynes King. Everyone's taking Haynes King.
Yeah, who used to be at A&M.
You saw what Haynes King was able to do against Georgia in that game last year. I think Haynes King, and that's one of those guys that could really surprise in the ACC this year. But I thought Marcel was good at times, but I want to see a full body of work, and I don't know. I think he's good.
So Lenora Sellers, his success had a lot to do with Rocket Sanders. So, because it kind of reminded me of Vince Young and Cedric Benson when VY was just getting going. And how's the running game of South Carolina going to be?
We'll see. I will say South Carolina insiders are saying their receiver room is going to be much deeper this year and better. So, that could be a benefit, although you lose Rocket Sanders. I just think, again, this is an imperfect exercise. I think it is a down year for quarterbacks in the SEC. But I just think the most upside and the most talented guy I have seen yet is Lenora Sellers. Again, I don't think that's going to equate to a championship. I think they're probably 7-5, but I think he's one of those guys. If you put him in Tuscaloosa, right now, Alabama fans are going to be like, Ty Simpson's our guy right now. Hopefully by the end of the year, it's Keelan Russell, the true 5-star freshman. But if you put a Lenora Sellers on a talented squad like Alabama, watch out.
Are you buying LSU as a national title contender?
I am. We just did our 40 and 40, Chip. Yesterday I had to turn in my top 40 teams, and I'm just kind of going by memory. I just had to make sure I got it in by the deadline. But I had LSU at number 3. I think LSU is going to be – so you asked about surprises. I guess they're a surprise to be able to compete and get to a situation where they're in the national semifinals, but they're quietly spending a lot of money. And I think they look around the landscape of college football. And when Brian Kelly signed this agreement, I don't know how you guys felt. I still think he's a borderline top 5 coach. I think he's an outstanding coach that has underachieved so far in Baton Rouge. And you look at the past where guys like Les Miles and Ed Orgeron are winning national championships. When he signed that deal in Baton Rouge, I think all LSU fans, and even not LSU fans, just football fans were like, here comes another national championship. And it hasn't lived up to it. It's almost like it's kind of gone backwards. Year one, they play for the SEC championship. Jaden wins a Heisman Trophy. And then, they come back to life a little bit. Year two, they play for a championship year one. Year two, he wins the Heisman. The defense was awful. And then last year, the defense got a little bit better, but the offense wasn't as good. I think it all comes together this year. And I think Nussmeier's a really good quarterback.
Who'd you have 1 and 2?
1 and 2, I had Ohio State and Clemson. I had Texas at 4, which I don't think Texas fans would take that. Again, Texas lost a lot. I just want to see, we got used to Nick Saban, Kirby Smart, Dabo Swinney being able to lose a lot and still just be able to restock. And I think Sark's going to be able to do that. But last year was that first somewhat special season I've ever seen him coach start to finish. And I just want to see how he backs it up with a bunch of new bodies coming in and the pressure on Arch Manning. I don't know if anybody has more pressure in college football than Arch Manning. And you start in Columbus against Ohio State?
Yeah, that's a lot. Clemson, you think is obviously Klubnik is unbelievable. He's super talented. You think they're complete on defense?
I do. I think Peter Woods is one of the best defenders in football up front. I think the back end of that defense got a lot better as the season went on last year. And look, as good as Klubnik was last year, I really thought it was the defense that carried them. So I think Clemson is going to be really good. I think they're going to be the class of the ACC. I don't know how much that says about anything. I think they're going to be dominant there. I think we get a great gauge week one, not only the Texas-Ohio State game, but LSU heading to Death Valley to take on Clemson. I mean, those two games on the same day, we get such a barometer from every angle, from, how good is Arch really going to be? How good is, if it is Julian Sayin taking over for Ohio State? The other side, can Brian Kelly, hard to believe his first 3 years at LSU has not won an opener yet. So, this is one of those games he is marked. He's got to find a way to get it done. But at the same time, I think Clemson's actually a better team. So just fascinated by some of these week one games.
Yeah.
Lance, Matt Stafford apparently walked away from $100 million to go somewhere else and took a little bit of a pay cut to stay with your Rams. How do you feel about that?
He got a lot of money. Now he has 4 little girls, which that's going to be really expensive one day. And his wife Kelly seems like a spender. I think he's really comfortable there. And I think Stafford realizes that, at the end of the year, they played the Eagles as well as anyone in Philadelphia in the snow. They were a play away from winning that game. I think they would have gone on. I believe they would have won the Super Bowl. I know that's, me looking through the Rams lenses, but I think he believes getting Devontae Adams, Kupp's out now, but Devontae comes in. The defense is so young. It's one of the best defensive lines in all of football. I think he feels really comfortable with McVay as his coach. And I think he looks at this and he's like, 2 more years. And I think in one of these 2 years, I can grab one more championship. And I do think they're going to be right there in the mix for that, because I think San Francisco is starting to step back a little bit. Arizona is not even close to where they need to be. And, Seattle, how good is Sam Darnold going to be week in, week out? I think the Rams are the best right now in the West. And I think this 2-year window is going to be a lot of fun to watch them.
What do you make of the George Pickens move from Pittsburgh to the Cowboys, so that Dak Prescott now has CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens? Seems like a lot of brash personality.
Well, first of all, selfishly, I wanted to see DK Metcalf and Pickens together. All these Pittsburgh fans, now that the trade's done, well, we needed to get Pickens out. He's liable to explode and throw a helmet at any moment. Have you watched DK Metcalf? Because I've watched him a lot, and it's almost the same demeanor. It probably isn't on record as much because Metcalf has had more meaningful football. But Metcalf, a guy that they went out and paid $30 million a year for, I thought it was going to be fun to watch Metcalf and Pickens as a 1-2. Now, the problem there is you don't have a quarterback, because right now it looks like Mason Rudolph. We'll see if Aaron Rodgers comes on board. If I'm Aaron Rodgers, I've got really no desire to come out when you've got Pat Freiermuth and DK Metcalf as your only weapons on that offense. I think it is going to be one of the worst offenses in football. On the other side, Pickens gets to reset the career, maybe prove to people that the character is not as bad as people thought it was. I go back to Georgia. He was a little banged up, but he didn't play a lot. He was in the doghouse of Kirby Smart. Kirby lets his guys play through a lot of stuff. I mean, we've seen that. So for Pickens, as talented as he was, to not be out there was kind of head-scratching. But now you pair him with CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb, clear-cut number 1. Now you got a guy like Pickens that will take a little pressure off Lamb. And more importantly for Pickens, he's playing with a guy at his best is one of the better quarterbacks in the league.
Lance, man, I know you remember that hit from Jadeveon Clowney against Michigan in the bowl game before he was the number 1 pick in the draft. And you fast forward to now, and he's cut by the Carolina Panthers. Did you ever see that coming for Jadeveon Clowney, who just hasn't been able to be as good as he was supposed to be in that number 1 pick years ago?
Yeah, really surprising, because you look around at guys like Myles Garrett and Vaughn Miller, some of these other edge guys that came out and they lived up or even maybe surpassed. But Jadeveon seemed like maybe the more talented or most talented one of all those guys. But it just shows you like the God-given talent was there. I don't know the guy personally, so I don't know what the character's like. I don't know how much he put into it. Reggie Bush seemed like a can't miss. Yeah. And Reggie Bush had a solid career. Clowney had a solid career. You just thought when these guys were drafted, they were 1,000% Hall of Famers if they stayed healthy. So Clowney was head scratching because he was such a freak.
All right. Well, we just found out that Texas and Texas A&M will be playing on Black Friday at 6:30.
Okay.
Does that do anything for you? Friday after Thanksgiving?
Hey man, I was so hyped about that game last year, but I thought A&M had something for Texas, and people forget because when they start looking at 4 losses for A&M, or is it 5, that if A&M would have beaten Texas, they would have gone to Atlanta and played in the SEC championship game, which is kind of head scratching when you look back on it. But I do think that rivalry is one of the best in football. I remember it being on Black Friday and then Thanksgiving night, back and forth. So I think it's a perfect place. I know a lot of people are excited about the Egg Bowl, in that spot, but that rivalry is so much better than the Egg Bowl.
What's the Egg Bowl? Mississippi State, Mississippi?
Yeah. It's fun. I mean, it was the one thing to gamble on, but this is better, and I like it at prime time too. This year this will be the year. Like A&M really seemed like they had a fighting shot last year going into the season. I don't think anybody thinks A&M can beat Texas. This would be the year that A&M could really screw things up for Texas.
God, that'd be brutal. Speaking of Mississippi, Jackson Dart, New York, how do you think that's going to work out, Lance?
Well, I mean, I think the good news for Dart, and they loved everything. They said he checked all the boxes. Going back, I remember watching him in his first action at USC against Washington State. And I was like, damn, this guy's a gunslinger. I like his moxie. I wish he would have stayed at USC. When he went to Ole Miss in a very, a system that a lot of these quarterbacks love to play in. I mean, you look at what Matt Corral was able to do there, and then Jackson Dart having really good years for Lane Kiffin. I just never saw him as a first-round guy. I never looked at Jackson Dart and was like, he's going to be a franchise quarterback. But a lot of the scouts believe that. Brian Dable is one of these guys that really, really scrutinizes quarterbacks. One of the reasons I don't think he wanted Shador. I heard that whole thing went really, really bad. But Jackson Dart does have the luxury of coming in and playing against one of the better quarterbacks we've seen in Russell Wilson. How good that will look, I don't know. But, they're trying to figure this out. You've got Kayvon Thibodeau on one side on an edge. You got Abdul Carter on the other. You got a guy like Malik Neighbors. They should have never given up Saquon Barkley. If you still had Barkley there and Dart ends up being good in the next couple of years, I mean, the Giants have got a really good foundation. I just don't know how good Jackson Dart's going to be. But, again, he will have time to learn behind Russell Wilson. Who's
your NBA team, Lance?
I'm a Lakers guy. I didn't mind seeing them lose. I have soured on LeBron as I've gotten older. I'm ready for it to just be Luka, and let's build around Luka. With all that said, I said for sure, and this is before the Lakers went out, it's going to be Celtics and Thunder. I don't think there's any way around that. And I said the Celtics going into this Knicks series would sweep the Knicks. They are now down 0-2. I can't explain this. I am getting my ass handed to me. I did have I had the Thunder last night. And I still think the Celtics are going to win that series. And I still think the Thunder are going to win the championship, but we shall see. I have never seen NBA playoffs this crazy. When you've got a 20-point lead with 14 minutes to go at home, down 0-1, and you've got the best player, arguably the best player on the floor with Tatum. I don't know. Some people might take Brunson right now because he's such a good closer. But the way Tatum played, the way that offense moved last night, everybody was scared, timid to take a shot. Last night, that was one of the more baffling games I've ever seen in my life in NBA history, to blow that lead down 0-1 at home to a team that is inferior to you.
Yeah, talk about stones, man. Jalen Brunson. What's going on over at lanceslock.com?
Well, Chip, we got our ass handed to us last night, but we did have the Thunder. We've only got 2 plays available today. We've got a free play in baseball, and that's always available at lanceslock.com. And we do have the side with Golden State and the T-Wolves. We know Steph Curry is going to be out for the next week at least. There's a reason that number is magnified, and it's been inflated up to 10.5. We do have a side on that. Jump on board. Win with us. We'll have PGA Championship props next week. And, we're proven, tried and true. We just had a rough bump the last couple of days because this NBA has been so out of whack.
Okay, where are you on the NHL playoffs, or are you leaving
It's funny.
that to?
We had a happy hour with clients, and one of my buddies looked at me and he was like, "Do you watch the NHL?" And I was like, "Dude, I used to watch all this. I had the center ice package. I was the biggest Kings fan in the world, and then I tap out about 10 years ago, and the Kings go on and win 2 Stanley Cups. And if it's on, I'll watch it. But it's one of those things that we don't have a lot of hockey in our market, so we really don't have to talk it. So it's just one of those things that I'm not into as much as I used to be."
Yeah, because this Stars story right now with the former Colorado Avalanche Hartnett, back-to-back hat tricks for the Stars. Unbelievable. We'll see if they can keep it going against Winnipeg, who many people think are the best team left in the tournament. But
well, look, I mean, we talk about the craziness of the NBA playoffs. You get that every year in the NHL. Like, you have that 8 going into a 1, doesn't matter. You see the 8s knock off 1s all the time. I just don't remember the NBA being this topsy-turvy.
Yeah.
Well, Zay, you got one more?
Yeah, Lance. How you liking that Pacers Cavs series?
Man, Halliburton, that dagger. So I never believed in the Cavs. I thought the offense really good, questionable defense. Now with Garland being out, I just didn't think that. I thought the Pacers had every opportunity to win this series. Now down 2-0. Unlike Boston, I really do believe Boston. I mean, that series now is it a pick? To me, that tells you Vegas still thinks Boston's going to win the series. The Cavs are done. They are done. They're dead and buried. Halliburton is just a freaking assassin. Did find it interesting, the NBA. A lot of his colleagues voted him the most overrated player in the NBA.
Yeah,
So,
I saw that.
say about that. His dad's a complete next level, somebody you probably wouldn't want to deal with, little league dad, but Halliburton's a real deal.
Lance, great stuff, man. Great stuff. Always appreciate it. Always enjoy the conversation. Let's do it again next week.
Look forward to it, boys. You guys have fun. Talk soon.
Appreciate you, Lance.
There he is, Lance Taylor, lanceslock.com for the picks. And yeah, I said Hartnett, Rantanen, Mikko Rantanen of the Dallas Stars. He's on fire. Guy's a skating hat trick waiting to happen. It's unbelievable because they needed it in Game 7. He gave it to him, and then he gave it to him again in Game 1 against Winnipeg. So go Stars. Go Stars, go.
Yeah, Dallas needs this after the Luka thing. Dallas needs this. For real.
Yeah, for reals. The SEC Network is airing the SEC softball tournament, and I think Tennessee just lost. So that clears the path for OU. Texas is going to play Ole Miss at 5:00 today. Ole Miss upset Florida after 8 innings, went extra innings. Ole Miss won it 6-3. And so 5:00 on SEC Network, Texas softball will take on Ole Miss. But let's get to the Texas A&M game being played on Friday, Black Friday. Chris Del Conte hinted at this during his town hall meeting in February, saying, I'd love for this game to get into Friday. And so here we go. 6:30 at DKR. We'll have Aggies Longhorns on Black Friday. So I like this. I like it. Zay, what say you?
Yeah, I've always loved this game being on Fridays. Like, my brain has always been programmed for this game to be on Fridays. I felt like the lead up to the game this past year, I was thinking it was Friday the whole time, and you had to remind me, hey, it's on Saturday. And I was like, oh, yeah, this isn't back in the day. So very nostalgic to bring it back Friday night. DKR is going to be popping. You're going to have your mashed potatoes and gravy leftovers and watch the Lone Star Showdown. But, yeah, I mean, the only negative would be you're coming off of playing Arkansas. There's going to be a lot of emotion in that game on Saturday, and it's a quicker turnaround. So even though these guys, are high-class athletes and in really great shape, we know what the football season can do to you when it comes to game 11 and 12. So hopefully, knock on wood, there's no injury issues going into that game. But yeah, man, this game, it's a classic for a reason, and it should be showcased like that. And Friday night puts it out there for everybody to just chill and lock in on that game only. And that's what the nation needs.
That's going to be a gauntlet final 3 games for Texas. They're at Georgia, November 15th. Then Arkansas comes to Austin on the 22nd. And then, as you mentioned, the 6-day shortened week to face A&M. Now you get Arkansas and A&M both at home. And you're at Georgia on November 15th. This season is kind of broken up into, 3 phases for me. You got Ohio State as the opener. Texas should handle their business the next 3 games against San Jose State, UTEP, and Sam Houston. And then comes the at Florida, Oklahoma, the Red River Shootout. Then you're at Kentucky, which should not be a problem. But you're at Mississippi State. So Texas is on the road the entire month of October. At Florida, in Dallas for OU, in Lexington for Kentucky, and at Mississippi State. So Texas fans will see them play at home against Sam Houston on September 20th. And then they won't have another home game until November 1st against Vanderbilt. And that's because Texas is considered the home team against Oklahoma. We know that flips every other year. So it's not, 4 away games, even though it is, because the Texas OU game, Texas is considered the home team. So this will be interesting. Arch Manning going to spend the whole month of October, on the road, getting to show what he can do. And that Florida game, I mean, look, Ohio State, Texas probably not going to be favored in that game. I could probably see there's probably some early lines out, but Ohio State at home, defending national champs. No one's probably expecting Texas to win that game. But Texas will be favored against Florida. And as Lance said, depending on how DJ Lagway's shoulder has recovered, Lagway's he's a problem. That dude's a gamer. So I think that's going to be a hell of a game.
Yeah, Lagway missed last year, him being injured. Graham Mertz, who somehow got drafted in front of Quinn, missed that game too. And obviously Mertz in the NFL, Lagway coming back. I didn't know that injury was still an issue. I thought he had enough time to get over it. And what Lance was saying, I guess they're still monitoring it down there in Gainesville. So, Billy Napier had a pretty solid recruiting class, and see what those transfers are going to be looking like. But you remember Cutter Boley from Kentucky when he got in the game. He got in the game late. He's made some throws.
Yeah.
He made some throws. Now, I don't know what everyone else looks like around him, but Boley, he can make some throws.
Yeah.
SEC throws. So I know Lance had him at 16 on his list, but there's some guys that might scare you a little bit, which is what I'm saying. You better bring your A game every Saturday, no matter who you're playing. Like going to Stark Vegas, like that's going to be a interesting atmosphere. You better be ready for that. Like Quinn Ewers was terrific on the road. That these last two teams been really good on the road warriors. So Arch, you got to bring that same attitude and moxie when it's everyone against you and everybody's calling you out your name. They talking about your girlfriend. Of course, they know her name because social media and stuff. So they saying who knows what about her, your mom's, great grandma, the whole nine. You got to be ready for that. And Sark, the coaching staff, they've done a good job of preparing this team to go on the road and have success. We've seen that these last few years. So even though that October is a gauntlet, I think this team will do well and have a solid October and solid season to where they can have a lot of momentum going into the college football playoff, whether they make the SEC championship or not. Ohio State showed us it don't matter if you make your conference championship game, you can still go on and win the Natty. In another case, that might be a good thing because now you're getting rest and you're able to reset some things and you could come back ready to go. I thought that was huge for Ohio State and their college football playoff performance. The fact that they got to chill, watch Oregon and Penn State beat up on one another, and then first game, Tennessee, slaughterhouse. Second game, Ohio State, slaughterhouse. And then we saw what they did to Texas and Notre Dame. Now Ryan Day got that monkey off his back. So you know how I feel about the conference championship. It's cool if you're there. If you're not, that's cool too. I know Sark wants to win an SEC championship. As long as you're in the college football playoff, I'm good with that, no matter how that looks.
Well, these Texas receivers need to take the next step because as good as DeAndre Moore was, he had 7 touchdown catches. He had a couple of games where there were some drops, and Ryan Wingo had some drops, and they got to have one of those two dudes or Emmett Mosley, the 5th, emerge as a safe, dependable go-to guy for Arch Manning. And, there was no doubt 2 years ago, you had Worthy, you had Mitchell. Mitchell was the guy. Mitchell's the guy that they threw to on 3rd and 12 at TCU to, get out of that game with, by the hair of their chinny chin. And, Jordan Whittington, Xavier Worthy. Last year it was Matt Golden. You got to have that guy. And is it going to be Wingo? Is it going to be DeAndre Moore? Is it going to be Emmett Mosley? Is it going to be Jack Endries? Or is it going to be one of these younger guys? Because you go up to Ohio State, you go up to the shoe, you gotta stand tall. And, those guys are talented. We've seen them make plays, but can you make them when it matters most? Can you be the best of the bunch? Can you be the difference maker? Can you stare down that atmosphere and make the plays? And that's what I'm interested in seeing because, Gunnar Helm, dude, made play after play when they needed it.
Yeah, Jack Endries obviously is going to be a big part of this offense when it comes to tight ends. Steve Sarkisian always makes sure those tight ends are getting busy and they're very involved in his philosophy. But how quickly are they going to get a hold of that playbook and understand it to where Steve Sarkisian is confident in them? Because it's not like they've been here all spring. Emmett Mosley the 5th, Jack Endries, like that's a lot that they're going to have to learn. You know what I'm saying? Like this time in May, hopefully Arch is taking those guys out and they're running routes and they're developing chemistry. You know they are, but hopefully it's enough to where once summer ball comes in, before fall camp and all that, you're right. Everybody's on the same page. You know, there's a big part of me that thinks that with the Silas Bolden situation, with him not getting there until last summer, did that set him back to where Chris Jackson and Sark didn't have full confidence in him to put him in as much as he should have been in?
That's a mystery.
Know. That's a mystery. That will always be a mystery. So when I look at Emmett Mosley the fifth and I look at Jack injuries, defense completely different. But offensively, when I look at those guys, like it doesn't matter how good you are. If you don't know the freaking playbook in the SEC, you're going to get us got. So we can't even risk that, where we might have to put in someone who doesn't have the same abilities as you, but at least knows what the hell they're doing. So you have confidence in them more than the other guy. That's what I'm eager to see and hear for these next few months leading up until that Ohio State game. How far along is Emmett Mosley the fifth, Jack injuries, and all these other newcomers? We could say defense too. How far along are they when it comes to understanding this very complex Steve Sarkisian playbook so they can be ready and this coaching staff have all the confidence in the world in those players?
Yeah. Yeah, and Rex is saying, how do you know he should have been in? I mean, he made plays when he was in.
That's what
I mean, he took big hits and held onto the ball. And, I mean, it seemed like he was, I don't know. It's a mystery.
Yeah.
Isaiah Bond, you know, it was tough. I mean, the interception against Arizona State, Quinn threw it into double coverage. Bond got absolutely obliterated on that play. So we'll see. We'll see. Does Arch have that ability to, you know, keep throws out of trouble? He said he got greedy against ULM when he had a couple of interceptions, and then against Mississippi State, he was much more disciplined, clean.
Yeah. Greedy against the bad teams is cool though. You know what I'm saying? Like, against the teams where you know you're going to win regardless, try some stuff. You know what I'm saying? Let's try some stuff. Let's see if I could do that.
That was what practice is for.
Yeah, yes and no. Because the game situations is different than practice. You ain't got 100,000 in the stands in practice. You know what I'm saying? Try some stuff against ULM. This year, it's going to be against Sam Houston or San Jose State. I'm not saying if I see, what's my man's name? Your boy from Ohio State, Caleb Downs. If I see him lurking, I'm probably not going to try stuff with him. I'm probably going to stay to the game plan, to the, to the scouting report, to the T with Caleb Downs. But against no-name Joe at San Jose State that's on his 7th year and came from junior college, oh yeah, I'm gonna try something on him.
You know what that month of September is gonna be for Arch Manning? A chance to take the lead in the Heisman, because he could put up some crazy numbers against San Jose State, UTEP, and Sam Houston. So he should be going to Florida with a bunch of confidence, no matter what happens against Ohio State. Now, if he beats Ohio State and then has an absolutely bonkers September where he's throwing, 4 touchdowns a game and he's not throwing picks, Vegas wants Arch Manning to be at the top of those betting odds. Get that money. Get that money coming in.
That paper.
Yeah, that's gonna be wild, because my God. Arch's performance against UTSA from mid second quarter on was filthy. He's throwing bombs. He ran for a 67-yard touchdown. He scored 2 touchdowns before Quinn Ewers even got out of the medical tent. Like, Quinn goes into the medical tent, and first play, Arch scores, touchdown pass. Then he runs for the 67-yard score. And then Quinn comes out of the medical tent. And Arch is already, he's scored touchdowns on 2 touchdowns in 5 plays. It was ridiculous. And then he ended up throwing another bomb to Wingo. And that was, and I mean, after that game, he was the favorite for the Heisman, Arch. And then things came back to earth. But yeah, he made it look super easy just coming in against, a UTSA team, Jeff Traylor. I know his team got picked apart by teams like Texas, taking Trey Moore. But, UTSA has been a conference title contender for the last few years. Still, let's see how Sark and Arch vibe, and do these receivers have what it takes? We got some alpha dogs in here, because it's grow up time.
It is grow up time. I like Emmett Mosley the fifth. I just hope he understands that his spot ain't guaranteed.
Oh yeah, no one's got a guaranteed spot.
Yeah,
Steve Sarkisian's gonna, he's gonna play the guys that he trusts. And look, we've talked about DeAndre Moore I think Oregon was sniffing around, and Texas had to up the ante to keep him. And he's the leader in that room, so they need DeAndre Moore to be the guy. Lead, talk, lead by example, score touchdowns.
Yeah.
I mean, if you had to pick 1,000-yard or who's just the leading receiver, Matthew Golden had 58 catches for 987 yards last year. 9 touchdowns.
I think Ryan Wingo could be that. I think DeAndre Moore is going to have another really good season. It's weird with DeAndre Moore because he did have that injury that just kind of lingered, especially late. He had that really bad drop against Clemson that got Jake Majors absolutely cold clocked on that blindside hit. That was a bad, situation for him there, but came back in the Peach Bowl, had the big, touchdown, 2 plays right in the game started. So DeAndre Moore, you're going to always be able to rely on him, especially with where his head's at. He's definitely that leader. And Ryan Wingo, both of those guys just being the men there. But that third wide receiver spot, that's just what I'm very eager to see, who comes out with that. And if Sark does more of a rotation this year than he did last year. Last year, you saw it sprinkled a little bit, just a little bit. You saw Ryan Wingo getting some bump coming in, especially early on. When you had Matthew Golden, Isaiah Bond, and DeAndre Moore, Ryan Wingo was getting some clock, and Silas Bolden, obviously not enough, but he sprinkled in a little bit. So Sark's trying. He's trying to give these guys, reps here, but all those reps have to be earned. And
Quad's asking how are you guys still so skeptical? You've given us every reason to believe, but then you say, let's see how Arch and Sark vibe. Well, Sark called some plays for Ryan Wingo in the red zone, and he dropped them. So, You gotta be
Sark ain't
consistent,
perfect.
huh?
Sark's not perfect.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean
it's
and look, I've said you lose 10 major contributors on offense. I mean, Jaden Blue, Matt Golden, Gunnar Helm, Calvin Banks, Cam Williams. I mean, yeah, it could be better. It could be worse. Maybe Arch can hide some mistakes with his legs. But I'm not expecting, like, I had way more confidence in Texas going into last season than I do this season, because you got 4 new starters in the offensive line, and they've been in the program. They know what's going on. But I don't know. I've seen film of Jack Endries. He looks really good. He's got to fit in and get in and make it happen. Emmett Mosley, same thing. There's a lot more that needs to come together over the months of June and July than last year. So Lance had Texas at number 4 behind Ohio State, Clemson, LSU. I'm good with that. Cole Brevard and Murad Watson look good on film. They haven't played a snap together yet, and they're probably going to be the starting defensive tackles for Texas. So love Anthony Hill. Love the linebacker situation. Love it. Love the safety situation. Think Derek Williams is going to be money at the star. The corners are talented. But are they going to have the same level of communication that Jade Barron, Michael Taff, and Andrew Makuba had? Those guys seem to be in each other's brains out there communicating so well. So there's stuff that needs to come together here for Texas.
no, last year they proved me wrong, like, extremely. Because I had this team before the season started. I said 9-3. I undervalued this Texas team like crazy. First, I thought Michigan would be better than what they were. I didn't expect Andrew Makuba to be that good. I didn't expect Jade Barron moving to the outside to be that good. I didn't expect Alfred Collins, Vernon Broughton, Bill Norton, all those guys to be that solid. I didn't expect Colin Simmons to already be at the point that he was at his freshman year. They shocked the hell out of me last year. Had no idea that Matthew Golden was going to be a first-round pick. All I heard was Isaiah Bond all off season long. We didn't hear anything about Matthew Golden. We were just like, oh, yeah, he's a good piece. He's just going to fit in like everyone else. Shh. Matthew Golden's arguably the best wide receiver last year, not named Ryan Williams and Jeremiah Smith or Travis Hunter. Like, they shocked the hell out of me. And Bo Davis leaving for Kenny Baker. Kenny Baker shocked me too. This year, I'm a little bit more optimistic, but also still a little hesitant just because that Arch pressure, man, not just Arch is going to feel that. Everyone's going to feel that. For all the publicity and media attention, now it's going to come with Arch. We're just going to feed off on everyone else. We get it. It's Texas. Sark says it all the time. Yet we chose this. Sark chose to take the job here. The players that come here chose to pick Texas to have a football career and hopefully go to the NFL, but have their lives changed as a student athlete and hopefully get themselves a degree at one of the best public schools in all the nation. So that Arch pressure is going to be a mother shut your mouth. I just hope this team's ready for that. I hope Arch is ready for that, because you could say you're ready. You don't know. The more you win, the more that pressure is going to keep creeping up on you.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I've seen Sark snap before. We've seen it. Sark snap. I'm like, oh, man. Steve. Let's bring that blood level down a little bit. Just a little bit.
Which game are you referring to?
Oh, I always think about the Alamo game, Alamo Bowl.
That was before the game.
So? So what are we talking about? Or what was the game after when he went to talk to the media and they were already asking Quinn questions before Sark got to give his own, thoughts on the game. And he was mad at that. And he got after somebody. He was like, what kind of place is this? He was like, what are we doing? You remember that?
Last year?
It was last year. It was this past year. It might have been SEC championship.
Yeah.
They go to the podium.
It was SEC championship.
Yeah, somebody asked Quinn something, and Sark was like, yo, can y'all let me talk first? Where they do that at? Can y'all respect me, respect my team, and let me talk before y'all start asking questions? Good grief. I was like, damn, Sark. I was like, yeah, he was hot that SEC championship game, though. He was hot. He was talking about the penalties. Laura Rutledge asked him something. Snapped on Laura, which he
just said maybe they'll call some on them.
Yeah, maybe they'll call some on them. What's going on?
What's going on? Hey, Michael Taft graduated today. Congratulations to Mookie Taft. That's a beautiful thing.
I saw him and Jalen Gilbo both wearing their cap and gown and stuff. Congrats to all those guys, man. That's a big deal.
I sent my last payment to Colorado State. My son is graduating next week.
Yeah, that's a big deal, man. Congrats to Tiger.
Hey, that's a beautiful thing.
Beautiful thing. Can't come back here. Can't come back and live with you, but it's a beautiful thing.
Hey, go fly. Go fly.
On the street?
Hey.
Go fly on the
Tiger's
street.
a hustler. He's gonna be just fine. He will hustle. Yeah, man. Well, let's get a couple mentions in here and we'll work our way toward the commentary this Thursday. Hey, Sleep Cycle Center for my guys who are snoring. Let's get over to sleepcyclecenters.com and answer the questionnaire, but set up an appointment for a sleep study and tell them Texas Sports Unfiltered sent you, and you're going to get $100 off your sleep study. I mean, Dr. Chad, who founded the Sleep Cycle Center locations in Lakeway and at the Arboretum, did so because his own father died at the age of 60 from sleep apnea. And he's made it his life's work to make sure that no one else goes through that kind of pain. And sleep apnea is real. So if you're snoring, it's not just annoying to the person next to you. It could be the sign of a major health issue where you're not getting enough oxygen while you sleep. You could choke in your sleep. And no one wants that. So get over to sleepcyclecenters.com and tell them Texas Sports Unfiltered sent you. They're going to take $100 off your sleep study. They're going to tell you exactly what's going on. They have remedies, including oral appliances, which is what I have. It's like a mouth guard that holds your lower jaw open so that you're getting that great sleep, the oxygen you need. But remember, tell them Texas Sports Unfiltered sent you so that you get that $100 off the sleep study. And cover three. Listen, Zay, I won my semifinal doubles match last night in the league play. So I think I need to go to cover 3 and celebrate. Have a little, have the Sean Adams prime rib sandwich, maybe the brick chicken and mac and cheese, and a frozen margarita. Oh yeah. Now we're talking. And tonight you got Texas softball. See Tegan Cavan warming up right now. 5:00. They will take on Ole Miss, who upset Florida in the SEC single elimination softball tournament. And You can catch that on SEC Network over at Cover 3. On the audio-visual consultations, big screen TVs at Cover 3. So happy hour, 3:30 to 6:30 every day, 3:30 to close on Mondays, and brunch on the weekends. Cover 3 Anderson, Cover 3 Round Rock, and Cover 2 at 183 and Lake Creek. And audio-visual consultations. I mean, when you're ready for the big screen of your dreams, our man Tom McKay will bring you the best price on big screens, surround sound, surveillance, electronic shades, new lighting. If you're up for a whole new media room, he's got you covered. All you got to do is call 255-8678 and let Tom and his crew bring everything to you. You can also check out avconsultations.com. All right, Zay, I think Quad wants you to comment on the shooting guards.
Quad, I haven't seen it yet. No, that's the Gilbert Arenas
Oh, okay.
gun in the locker room situation.
Okay.
Haven't seen it yet. I'll watch it over the weekend for sure.
Gotcha.
But, yeah, CB said it was good too. So I trust Quad and CB. Is Gilbert on it though? Y'all let me know. Is Gilbert Arenas, is he actually talking on it? Because then I will take the documentary to a whole new level. Because Gilbert, talk about ignorant. He could get ignorant real quick. It's funny though. Like it's actually has some substance to its ignorance, if that makes sense. But
substance to his ignorance.
Okay, yeah, he's on it. Okay, bet.
Okay, so we were just talking about Steve Sarkisian and where his mind is on game day. And in that interview with Josh Pate that you can catch on YouTube, just type in Josh Pate, Steve Sarkisian, and boom, there it is. Josh Pate asks him about, take us through your mindset going into a game, during a game, as the head coach and play caller. And Steve Sarkisian had some really interesting comments. He said, first of all, there's nothing better than game day. It's like Christmas morning, he said. And he said, my mind is going, he said, you turn the switch on and it's on. And your mind is constantly thinking about contingency plans because you have the plan for offense, defense, and special teams, and then you have to make adjustments. And so he's trying to think of the adjustments ahead of time. He said, when I step on the grass before the game, I go out earlier than most head coaches because, there's so much other stuff going on. He said, with recruits there and donors and everything, he said, I just need to get into my zone. So I'm out on the field kind of walking and just getting his mind right. And then, he said, I like to be by myself in that moment. And then once the game starts, he said, you almost go into a quote, bit of a silo. So that, you're able to think clearly and be focused. And he said, when the ball gets kicked off, to put it into perspective, think about making a decision every 30 seconds. He said, imagine you're sitting at home and for the next 4 hours, your wife is asking you what you want to eat every 30 seconds. And when you say, I don't know, that's called a delay of game. So, he's like every 30 seconds, you're making a decision for the next 4 hours in terms of play calling. And he said, when it's all said and done, there's this odd feeling of you're exhausted, but yet you're still exhilarated. And, he said you have to find a way to get yourself to come back off of that. He said, because you're literally in that silo for 4 hours. And, you know, he was asked about the Laura Rutledge kind of short answer that he gave at halftime of the SEC title game. And he said, you're so locked in that, you know, you're kind of on sensory overload. And, you know, it was interesting. It's a lot, and he loves it. I mean, Dana Holgerson told me when he got, Jake Spavital to call plays at West Virginia. He said it put years back on my life, and sounded like, you know, he's like, if I never have to call plays again, I'd be just fine. And then there he was calling plays at Houston, but it's a lot. And Sarkisian still loves it. And so he's, you know, he's got help, and he paid one of his analysts who he really trusts. They had to pony up and make him the assistant quarterbacks coach because he didn't want to lose them. And Sark has the people around him that he trusts, and you know, he's got to dial it up when it matters most. And that's the hardest part of the game. And he said, I'm my biggest critic. On Sundays, he said, we might have a play that was successful, and he'll look at the defense and say, we got lucky because they blew the coverage. That was a terrible call. And it could be for 40 yards and a touchdown, and everybody's going wild over it. And he's thinking, we got lucky on that. But, I mean, Sarkisian's, he's one of the best play designers. The NFL looks at what he's doing all the time. They sample it. We saw that double reverse, or fake counter, double reverse. Andy Reid used it like 2 weeks later.
Yeah.
So Sarkisian's, you know, unbelievable play designer. Gotta be able to finish in the red zone, especially in those short yardage goal line situations when it matters most against elite defenses. So,
see, who'd he try that reverse on? Kentucky, one of the weaker teams in the SEC. You try stuff on the weak teams. That's why I ain't mad at Arch for getting greedy. You know what I'm saying? Against these weaker teams. Sometimes you gotta try some stuff to see if it works. Then the better that you get at it, then you start trying it on the Georgias and the Ohio States and all these top tier CFP caliber teams. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I love the interview with Sark and Josh Pate. Pate does a good job. Loved having them on our show when we were at SEC Media Days in Dallas this past July. And another thing that stood out in that interview for me, Chip, was when Sark was talking about how he lays it out for all the players after spring ball and how he goes about, you know, evaluating them and breaking it down. He says it starts with academics, then he hits up Torrey Beckman. Torrey Beckman lets them know what they need to get right about their body and what they need to change about their body when it comes to the weight room. The position coaches get with them, talk about the strengths and weaknesses and how to go about both of those things. Training room gets with them, but then Sark brings it all together and lets those guys know, hey, you want to know why you're not playing over so-and-so? This is what they're doing. This is what you're doing. You get that? All right, because some of y'all, nobody cares about Uncle Rico and what he's saying. Uncle Rico ain't here.
Uncle Rico is dragging us down.
Yeah, he's dragging us down. I don't care. You talk to him every night and he thinks he knows what's going on and you're telling him all this nonsense. How about you send this to Uncle Rico? How about you send this layout on what we think of your game, get it to Uncle Rico so he can know why and stop feeding you this foolishness that you should be on the field over homeboy who's out here probably going to be second round, first round pick of the draft later on. I like hearing that stuff, man. Let them know, because Uncle Rico's always going to be around. And if it ain't Uncle Rico, it's brother Jacob or your sister, Jane, or your mama, your daddy. It don't matter. Whatever relative person in your family that thinks they know best, even though they don't, gotta let them know. And if transfer portal means that's where you need to go because you don't like this feedback, be gone. Deuces. See you later. Don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out. I appreciate that.
Well, and real quick before we get to the right call, I was looking at the softball start time from the SEC page, and it was Eastern. So the Texas softball team will take the field in about 16 minutes.
Wow, damn.
Against Ole Miss on SEC Network. So, 4 o'clock, not 5 o'clock. My bad. All right, let's get to the right call.
Let's get it. Terrific chip shot, my friend. But before the right call, shout out to McCall Custom Homes. You're thinking about upgrading your kitchen, remodeling your bathroom, or adding some new life to your outdoor space. Call the guys at McCall Custom Homes. Have been doing it for over 40 years. Have been doing it really well. It's all about quality. It's all about craftsmanship. And the father and son duo are the best in the land. They're licensed. They're insured. Top quality at affordable prices. In-house architects. And they will handle the permitting process. And they will work with your insurance to make your house feel like a home. So hit them up at McCall Custom Homes on Facebook and Instagram. Give our boy Mike a call at 512-633-9580. That's 512-633-9580. Or email them at mike@mccallcustomhomes.com and hit up their website to see everything they have to offer at mccallcustomhomesatx.com. It's McCall Custom Homes. We build value into your home. And Leaf Landscape Supply. If you're looking for large quantities of supplies to fulfill any landscaping job, trendy house plants, a collection of specialty plants and rare plants, Leaf Landscape Supply is your place to be. Full service wholesale and retail plant nursery and landscape supplier here in Austin, Texas. 2 amazing locations, one near you. If you're down south, go visit them off of Monterey Oaks and 290. If you're up north, go visit them off of Pond Springs Road. Check out their website at leaflandscapesupply.com so you can see the different departments that they have, and you can order online from chemicals and fertilizer to interior plants, ground cover, pottery, seeds. They have all of that and then some at Leaf Landscape Supply. Remember, when you go in and you make a purchase with Leaf Landscape Supply, but mention Texas Sports Unfiltered and TSU, you get 10% off. 10% off if you mention us at Texas Sports Unfiltered, your boy Zay Collier. Let them know that I put you on. You get 10% off. Can't beat that at Leaf Landscape Supply. And Covert Bee Cave, Covert Automotive Dealership, that have been doing it in the greater Austin area for over 100 years and been doing it really well. If you don't want to take my word for it, listen to these great folks of Covert Bee Cave.
It's a family atmosphere. It's not just when you stop in, you buy your car.
From communication to expertise to professionalism, it's exactly what I expected from the Covert family.
So they make it so easy for me. That car that I wanted, they found it, and I didn't know if I can afford it, but they make it possible.
You'll see that they really will move mountains. They're going to do what they need to do to get you what you want and make sure you're happy with it.
Come and experience it for yourself.
Covert, born and raised in Austin.
Nobody beats a Covert deal. Not now, not ever. All right, Chip. Right call today. A couple of ignorant stories per usual. Not per usual. It's more ignorant than others on different days. Just depends on how I'm feeling and what story comes out. But this one is nuts. So there's an Australian game that's been discovered, and it's called Run It Straight. Basically, it's just the Oklahoma drill, in a way without the blockers. So it's just ball carrier and then tackler. And you're just trying to run them over, not get tackled, and see what happens. But here's the catch. You're just doing this raw. No pads, no nothing. Check it out.
Where's this?
Australia. Check it out. They use the rugby ball. So it's not like technically football. Like it's more from rugby in their eyes, even though this kind of looks like the Oklahoma drill without the blockers to me. Check it out. Start a straight line. Boom.
Dude, that dude's neck is broken.
Yo, man. What's wrong with people? Because you've been seeing these ridiculous sports come out, like the sport where somebody's just slapping the crap out of you.
Yeah, the power slap.
Yeah, the power slap. There's that one. Arm wrestling's cool, I guess, but we're taking these to a whole new level.
You got the bare-fisted backyard fighting league.
Yeah, man. Like, are these folks this down bad to where this looks fun? I mean, look at it. Like you're on one side, you're trying to tackle the dude. If he's going full speed, lowers his shoulder. Even if you win, you lose. That's my thing. Like, I don't know if it's worth it, but I'm not going to lie. I'd pay to see it. Just once. I'm not paying top dollar or anything, but they had a Groupon or something like that, a deal where I could bring the homies.
If I could get a media pass.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? I'd go in, I'd check it out, I'd support. But
oh man,
you got dudes out here running like Marshawn Lynch and stuff, no pads. And that's what I'm saying. Like, you can't be all the way there up here.
Right.
And think that this is okay. Like, because the payout ain't crazy. Like, it's
that dude you showed, he crumpled to the ground. Like, did we see any limbs moving after that?
I don't. The video's not long enough, but
that was brutal.
I'm sure he didn't get up, but yeah,
that was brutal.
All right, another story. So Paul Pierce, who works for FS1, he's on one of those shows with the lovely Joy Taylor. I think he's on it with what's my man's name?
Iacho.
Yes, Iacho. And I don't know who the other guy is. Maybe Chase Daniels. I don't know. But anyway, Paul Pierce.
Isn't it McCoy?
LaShawn McCoy. Yes, that sounds right. I think they change it up, but
okay.
Majority, it's Paul Pierce, Acho, Joy Taylor. So
Okay.
Paul Pierce, very distraught, and the Celtics losing. He went on the show and said, if the Celtics lose game 2, he is going to walk to work, which they reside in Los Angeles, California. He's going to walk to work like an 8-hour walk in slippers and a bathrobe. Well, as we saw last night, the Celtics lost game 2, and Paul Pierce, man of his word, walked from home to work. Check it out.
Man, this really wild, though. I can't believe this. Celtics got me out here like this, dog. I'm really walking out here like this. Man, I can't believe it. I got a long walk to go. So I got to put my shades on. Everybody won't recognize. Man, this is blowing me. This is blowing me, dog. Man, I'm way out here. I'm stepping, though. Here we go, baby. Here we go. All right, man. Every hour, top of the hour, I'll give y'all an update on where I'm at. All right. I'm really outside like this, dog. I can't believe this. Celtics got me, dog. What the? Come on, man.
Wow.
He made it. He finally made it, apparently. One of his
How long?
8 hours, it said. 8-hour walk. which I'm like, come on, this is Paul Pierce. Like, somebody has to be following him or something. This is Los Angeles. Like, you can't even wear certain colors because it's dangerous out there. So to walk where he's from, which I'm sure Paul Pierce lives in a very nice neighborhood, but somebody had to be following him or something, or he'd do a video and all of a sudden the person that was following him, he'd jump in the car and then do another video later and just kind of prolong the event. But I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. I'll say that he walked, and I'll believe him. Say he's a man of his word, but
yeah, I don't know about that. He could easily been getting rides to places, and then, oh, here I am an hour later. I'm still walking. I need more photographic evidence that he walked 8 hours. Damn.
That's a long way.
LA, 8 hours of walking. That is brutal. Where does he live? San Diego?
Again, it's LA, man.
Yeah. No, LA's a mess.
LA's a lot. Lots going on, but he's from LA though.
Yeah.
So you know, secret ways to go to shorten up the trip a little bit. But yeah, I didn't expect the Celtics to lose. So
I sure didn't.
I did not expect that. It's interesting because Barkley and Shaq, they were saying how the Knicks have to win game 3. And I don't think that's the case. I get what they're saying because there's been times where a team will lose being up 2-0 and end up losing the series just because they didn't completely step on the necks of their opponent. And when you got championship DNA like the Boston Celtics do, you have to believe that they still got some pride in them to come out there and perform in game 3 and not get embarrassed. But they just have a lot of weird stuff going on. Jason Tatum's situation is weird. Something's funky with his shot right now. Kind of like what we saw last summer. Jaylen Brown's not 100%. Nobody knows why. Kristaps Porzingis is sick and just still dealing with something that happened in March.
Let me ask you this. Golden State at Minnesota tonight. Minnesota's favored by 10.5. Who you rolling with?
I'll take Minnesota in those points. Yeah.
You'll take Minnesota minus 10.5.
Yeah, I think no Steph Curry. It was a little difficult for them to adjust. Plus, they had the time off. Like, no home team won a game 1 in the second round. So it's very odd that happened, and shows like the parity in the NBA is at a really good spot, but also in that situation, I just think that time off hurt them and they came out a little rusty. And then when Steph got hurt with the hamstring injury, it was just, all right, now our game plan has to change mid-game. And sometimes that's hard to do. It's easy to say, oh, Steph's out, you should win because one of the best players to ever do it is not available, but guys are still millionaires too. Role players are still millionaires also. So when you got someone like Buddy Hield who has a hot hand, he will not get those same looks tonight. A lot of the reason why Buddy Hield gets those looks is because everybody's worried about Steph Curry, and now you've got to worry about Jimmy Butler. Now you ain't got to worry about Steph. So you could focus on Buddy Hield more to where he's not going to get those open looks. So Jimmy Butler, they're going to need a huge night from him if they want to steal game 2. But
hey, and you're
tough, man.
You're out tomorrow and Monday, is that right?
Correct. Yeah, I'll be in Minnesota actually.
Okay. Got Dan Neal co-hosting for you tomorrow.
There we go.
And Houston Street co-hosting with you, or co-hosting for you
man.
Monday.
Hey, can we get Houston Street on when I'm on? Dang, like he comes on when I'm not here. Does he got something against me? Good grief. I'd like to talk.
No. I was just trying to think of who would be good and timely,
I haven't talked to Houston Street once on these airways before. He's coming.
All right, we'll make it happen. We'll make it happen.
Jesus.
We'll make it happen. Let's bring in the open gym. Patrick and Matt.
How y'all boys doing?
Oh man.
Yeah, that was a weird first round, our second round, the first games that nobody won at home. And it is after that, and then the college football playoffs last year, that rest versus rust argument. Rust is not good. You don't want that rest. The rest is everyone is getting beat up right now, and it's like, no, just keep playing. Just keep playing. If you take a day off, it's gonna be bad.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna go watch some Texas softball. I'll see you tomorrow.
Enjoy yourselves.
Next week.
Have a good day. Get you back in here. Welcome into Open Gym here on Texas Sports Unfiltered. Myself, Patrick Davis, alongside Matt Galatzan of Texas Longhorns on SI. Got some good stuff going on today. Just saw across my timeline as I was looking right before the show that we do have the time for the Texas A&M football game now official. That it will be 6:30 on a Friday night, the Friday after Thanksgiving, which is I have mixed feelings about. I think that's the best time for it. Legitimately, it's the best time for it as a fan. As someone who used to have to run tailgates, I feel bad for everybody who has to work it. What I'll say on the other side is I feel bad for everybody who has to work it, because those are rough days of on Thanksgiving night after a good meal being like, hey, you got to go set up stuff tonight because we got to be ready to go in the morning. So, and you leave Thanksgiving dinner and go straight downtown and straight down to DKR to start setting up. So it's going to be a good one. I'm happy though that it's back on a Friday, and I'm happy that we're prime time for this.
Yeah, I usually when Texas plays on a Friday to close out their season, I usually get to go to my brother's hunting lease very, very quickly after on that Saturday morning. So hopefully that's the case this year. But I also feel like as a fan, this is the perfect time for the game. 100%. As a guy who's going to be there covering it, I hate this so much. I wish every game that I covered was at 11 a.m. so I could, I
get that feeling. That was the switch off of running tailgates and stuff and doing pre-games with the radio stations I've done, whether I was on the air or not, is 11 a.m. games. You're like, it sucks waking up, but then you get to enjoy the rest of the day of football.
Mm-hmm.
And a 6:30 game, I don't really get to watch the rest of college football that day because I'm, trying to get in. And maybe a 6:30 game, if you're just covered it, you can get in. Yeah. So CB, funny you say Texas lost last time we played in Austin. That is still, even with the loss, one of the coolest sports moments of my life, because I had a good friend who is family of the Royals. And so we went to the game, and then Edith Royal came down and got us and was like, come on up to the box, guys, it's Thanksgiving. And so we went up, and I was just sitting behind Daryl Royal in Joe Jamel's box watching the game and just kind of getting little tidbits of wisdom from DKR. And so that was just a super, super cool moment of being there. So even though it was a loss, it was like one of those moments where you're like, no, this is one of the coolest things in the world to be able to do.
That's pretty badass. I won't lie. I am jealous of you for that one. I don't think I ever got the chance to be that close to DKR. I did get Ricky Williams' autograph after the Texas OU game in 1998, his senior year. And I think I met his mom that day too. That was pretty cool. She waved me in. I was wearing a Ricky Williams jersey, and she waved me in behind the gate and was like, no, to the security guard, was like, no, he's fine. I was just like, oh my God. And he gave me a Snickers bar. And then my mom still has that Snickers bar to this day. And I'm like, you have to throw that thing away. That's almost 30 years old.
That's like the commemorative box of cereals that when my parents moved, that we had the Tim Duncan O's or something like that. Slam and Dunk. I can't remember what they were called, but we had some of those things. And he was like, look, I appreciate that we have these, but there's still cereal in these boxes, and there's no way this is okay to still have.
Yeah,
And
that
what are we gonna do? None of us have houses big enough to be able to get down to displaying cereal boxes. They just don't have space for that I can put out and still ever try and attract a woman. I don't know if I can have cereal boxes for my youth up.
Yeah, CB, that game was honoring Doak Walker. I remember Ricky was wearing 37 that day. That was a hell of a game. I think Texas beat the crap out of him too, if I remember correctly.
See, you still got the Longhorn champion, and I think I keep championship stuff. This was not championship because I still have all my Spurs championship and the Longhorn championships. I still have all that, but this was like a random like promotional Tim Duncan thing. That I love Tim Duncan, but I was still like, all right, this doesn't even hold value though. Like you could look at it, like they're still worth like $3. So I didn't think I needed to keep it too much. Yeah, and if you compare it to, it's not probably bigger. I mean, it's probably worn
molded
down. Yeah, it's bigger because of the molds. Good memory, good trip down memory lane there. I do want to get into Sark. I watched today Sark on Josh Pate as we get into today's world. As we were marching down memory lane, one of the things they talked about on that interview was how to enjoy the moment and being happy to be in the good old days while you're in the good old days and enjoying them, which is something that, as everybody, as you get older, you try and do a little bit more and enjoy the moment and not get caught up in it. I don't want to get in my soapbox, but stop filming concerts and just enjoy them. Things like that.
Yes, Patrick.
Put your phone down. No one's ever going to watch it. Ever. Put it down. Enjoy the moment.
Not even you.
No. Sounds like crap. Just soapbox over there. But I will say it is something you try and do. He talked a little bit about that, but he had a lot of different conversations. I think BK cut up a couple pieces of audio, so we'll go to that. But a lot of cool pieces that he discussed in this. And it kind of did start of, going from the beginning of coming to Austin and the progress he's made in the years he's been here, that it really started with, well, when you got here, because I remember, I was working for the Horn and we still had the Longhorn contract when he first got here. So I was at his introductory press conference and they won the title. He's there. He's in Austin. Like there's no time in between them winning a national title and him being in Austin. And so for him to be able to do that, you have to take a job and then just hope for the best. Now it's Austin, so you can look up Austin and see, okay, if I'm getting a multi-million-dollar contract, I'll be okay in this town. I don't really have to worry about the price of things too much. I'll be fine, and it's a really cool town. So we know that, he came in, but what I thought was really interesting was he was talking about when he came in, and one of the first things that he noticed that he had to change was when he came in and they gave him the cumulative GPA of the team. And he said it was like 2.33 or something like that. And he saw that and he was like, look, I get it's a really good school, so it's a little bit harder. And so maybe these guys, maybe it was just harder for them to get the classes and everything else, but we need that to go up. And he was like, that's kind of the microcosm of everything of when I got here, which was, it was about me. It was about people just trying to do their own things. And it wasn't about trying to do everything right and trying to help out other people and in each situation doing the right thing. So they were trying to do the right thing on the football field, but they didn't care about doing the right thing off the football field. And we had to change that and doing things for other people and doing things because they're the right things to do. And so he was talking about trying to change that cycle. And then puts in there at the end, he's like, that's just beginning. That is just the beginning of where we're at now, because now this is like the first cycle of everyone on the team who's brought in with that thought process. Everyone is now we don't have anybody that's a holdover from Tom Herman anymore. And we don't have anybody that was maybe taught wrong or had a different thought. From day one, everybody's been taught the same message now. So he was basically saying, I know I've been here for 5 years, but this is really year one. I like the philosophy, and I don't think he's saying that. He's already got 2 college football playoff appearances, so he's clearly not trying to say, don't judge me on the last couple of years. But I think he is saying our championship window, I feel, is really, really opening up right now because we have the right culture in place now.
Yeah, it really does. I totally agree. I think that and I've been trying to tell this to my dad and my brother from time to time. My dad's sort of on my side with it. My brother's not as much. He's still excited about what's been happening, but my dad's a little bit more bought in. I've been trying to tell them this is just getting started here. It's gonna be just getting better and better and better. He's gonna keep bringing in guys, keep building this culture, and like the fact that he was able to turn things around so quickly after the kind of culture and thing and stuff that was happening under Tom Herman, where you had guys that were just not invested in football or school, and then you had guys that were getting in trouble off the field, and you had a few good eggs in there like Bijan Robinson and Jordan Whittington and guys like that, but there was a lot of bad eggs in that program, and you saw that the first off season they had such a big turnover with the transfer portal and getting guys out of the program, bringing new guys in, and all that stuff. And now it's like, okay, we're in a point where we're recruiting the guys that fit our culture, and we're only bringing in a select few transfer guys to fill needs, because everybody now is exactly the kind of player and the kind of character person that we want them to be. And that is when, like, Nick Saban at Alabama, after his, he got it going real quickly too. He got to a championship in 2009 and won it. But it was really after that Alabama really started taking off, because he got all the guys in there to buy into his vision and his program and that kind of stuff. So I feel like Sark is just at the tipping point of going up and up and up as they go forward in this program.
Yeah, and it was funny you mentioned Alabama. They talked about when he was there, and a little bit before that, when Nick Saban was talking about when they started to win at Alabama, and him realizing, he started to have more people coming in. Where I was like, you don't have to pitch anybody anymore. They want to come play for you. But then the conversation is, what can you do for me? Not what can I do for you? And it starts to switch a little bit more. And how do you control that narrative? And it's something we used to talk about a lot with Rob Arians. Like, do you play at Texas or do you play for Texas? And, are you trying to be the best you can be at Texas and be the best for Texas? And so I think that there's pieces of that where he talks about it. And here's a little clip of it, talking about trying to keep guys here and keep guys happy, and really trying to have that mindset of, this is where we want this team to be, and I need everybody on the same page. And so when you're recruiting or when you're trying to keep guys here, everybody has to be on the same page, that this is a team working towards a goal and not necessarily working towards your goal. But you can do we want you to achieve, we want you to get to where you want to be, but we have to work on the team goal together.
Hard work works. Right. And when we can recognize the hard work, and when we can show in real time why somebody else is earning more playing time than somebody else in that moment, that it's not, we say it all the time. We're capable of anything around here. We're entitled to nothing. And entitlement is a really scary thing in college football right now that we have to fight against. We have to monitor really closely, because the moment you feel entitled, that hard work doesn't quite kind of match up with what the expectations might be, right? Because the worst word in sports is potential. That is the worst word. You never, I tell our players all the time, you never want to be labeled a guy with great potential, because that means you're not him, right? That means you aren't living up to what you're capable of being. And so we tend not to shy away from it. We talk to it. We embrace it. Expectations are what they are for the program, but expectations are what they are for the individual players too, right? Nobody came to Texas just to put on a t-shirt anymore that says Texas football. Guys are coming here with the right things in mind, right? Get a great degree, compete for championships, get developed, and then have an opportunity to fulfill their dreams of playing in the NFL.
And that's it. We need you to come in and understand what the work is going to be. And for Sark, I think that's been the big pushing method of, he talks about his vulnerability in this sometimes in this interview too. But at that point of, I've done things where I didn't work hard enough and it cost me my job. We've seen guys that have not worked hard enough and it's cost them. So you got to go and earn it.
Yeah. There was two things in there that he said that I think are kind of a microcosm or whatever the word might be of what his program is all about. and it's work works is the first one.
Yeah.
That's the mentality they're trying to embrace. I think that they've done that very successfully over the last few years, fostering competition, working hard, making sure the guy next to you is working as hard as you are so you can make each other better, that kind of a thing. And then the mentality of capable of anything, entitled to nothing, I think is absolutely critical because, you know, he touched on it there a little bit, but he's absolutely right. Entitlement is the worst possible thing that you can have in any sport. If you believe that you're entitled to something, it immediately causes you to not work as hard. You expect things to be given to you. And if you can put that into your program where there is no entitlement, everybody's working toward the same goal and you have to earn everything, then it's just going to show on the field. And I think that that's why they've improved so quickly over the last 3 years.
Yeah, I agree with you there. He also talked a little bit about how he's trying to get better in a day-to-day world. And that's something that I think, you know, sometimes doesn't get looked at as much, but it was Tom Herman's biggest downfall. Was that Tom Herman who walked out was basically the exact same Tom Herman who walked in, and maybe a little bit angrier, but basically the same Tom Herman, where he just didn't evolve at all. He didn't grow as a coach, and he was making the same mistakes, you know, in year 4 as he's making in year 1. And while Sarkis makes mistakes, he tries to tend to grow in them. And we saw the red zone offense improve. It still needs to improve more. But we saw the improvement because it was something where he said, I'm doing something wrong in these play calls. I'm messing up where this is. Okay, I want to do that. I need to change what it is. And then he also talked about, and this is a big thing on the Andy Reid coaching world, is listening to a lot of different people. And so he's basically saying, I want to have a culture where every assistant coach and every, you know, the academic people and anybody else can come talk to me, that if they have something that they think I did wrong or a solution to a problem we might be having, that they can come talk to me and we can do it. And now I may not take every piece of advice, but I need to let them know that I'm listening, and the ones I do, I need to give them credit that, guys, great decision or great idea to help us get through this, but really trying to make it a group effort and understanding I'm not the all smart being that can run this program with an iron fist and everybody does what I say. You have to be able to be open to having your staff come through, and that's why you hire that staff.
Oh, I thought you were about to play a clip.
No. I'm going to play the clip in a second. I want to get your opinion on that, and then I'll play the clip.
Yeah, my bad. No, I totally agree with that. I think that, you know, whether it's a football coach, whether it's a manager of a company, or you know, even being a parent, something like that, if the best people in their field are always the ones who are open to constructive criticism and open to, you know, taking advice and learning and growing and evolving as they progress in their jobs. So I think the fact that he's taking that mentality, and it's probably something that he learned from Nick Saban and Pete Carroll and those guys, and it's kind of developed as he's gone forward in his career here with Texas. I think that that's probably the biggest factor in why he's been so successful here as opposed to his last jobs, because he's embraced that mentality, and he's, you know, taking all these different points of view and pieces of advice and different strategies, and, like, you know, whether it's as simple as talking to an academic advisor about how he can get his kids' grades up, or if he's talking to Sean McVay about a new wrinkle in his offense in the offseason during the Texas Coaches Clinic, or whatever the case may be, being able to evolve is absolutely critical for a head coach in football and in any profession in life. So I'm glad that he's doing that.
Yeah, and he does talk about his coaches that he's going to hire, so we'll play the clip here in a second. But he does talk about bringing in staff, and, you know, there's different parts of it, talking about the philosophy and trying to be on the same page with everybody. But now that he's in a world of being able to bring in staff and not necessarily have to be in a world of worried about who he's going to be able to bring in anymore, he can kind of go out and pick and choose coaches a little bit more. And here's what he talks about when he's looking for a coach, because they're having to replace more guys now. This is what he does.
A lot of what I do is get to know you, right? You wouldn't have got to this level to where you're getting recommended for a job at the University of Texas if you didn't know some level of football, right? But what kind of person are you, right? Are you going to enhance this building? Because we've got a great thing going. We've got a great building here. And the last thing is I want to infect this building with something that could really hinder us on the journey that we're on. So the person matters for the coaches that we hire here. And that's on offense, defense, special teams. That's in our scouting and recruiting department. That's in every aspect of our organization. I think if you talk to anybody around here, is what we have going is the people, right? Because hey, let me tell you something. Everybody's got great facilities nowadays. And if they don't have them, they're building new ones. Okay. Everybody's got a great stadium. All right. Everybody's got 19 uniforms that they put on week in and week out. So what's going to make us different? Okay. The people. And so if all I'm worried about is how smart you are as a coach and neglect maybe who you are as a person, sooner or later, I'm going to fail in that hiring process. And so I try to learn you as a person to make sure that you can align with or where we're headed as a program from a mentality standpoint.
Yeah, and so this is trying to hire somebody in, and again, how much is culture a fit here? How much is what do you do can fit into what we do, and you can elevate us? I think it's a solid way to hire a coach.
Yeah, I mean, I think that some of the things that he's been saying in these first couple of clips are kind of echoes of one another in the sense that he's not just looking at this as a football team. He's looking at this as a professional organization. And I'm sure you've had jobs where, you know, the culture around the office or the studio or whatever the case may be isn't the best, and you kind of hate going to work every day, and you know, you don't like the guy that sits next to you here, or you don't like the guy that you have to go on the road with there. And if you can foster a culture and group of people that you actually enjoy being around and who all bring their own, you know, pluses to the business and pluses to the culture and the character of the company, then you're going to be more successful because you like going to work with these people every day. You have relationships with these people every day. You can trust these people every day. And the fact that he's taking that approach is, I think, why he's been so successful in hiring all these assistants when they have guys coming in and out of the program every year. You know, you replace a Blake Gideon with Mark Orphy, you know, and these other guys, and Dwayne Akina, and these guys who have been around, and some new guys who are coming up in the game and all this stuff. And, you know, everybody in the program is responsible for teaching people in their own way too. So you want to make sure that your players have good mentors as well. So, you know, it's a great philosophy to have, in my opinion.
Yeah. He also talked then about his philosophy in basically setting up the team and the initial team meetings and putting everybody together, that he does it in a way where he gets all his staff together, all the staff, everybody who's a part of the team, and gives them the presentation of, this is what we want to do this year. This is how we want to do it. This is our goals. This is, you know, how we're going to achieve things, what our plan is. And once he gets done, he goes and talks to the people that were in the meeting and tries to improve on that and, you know, find things that they have feedback about. And then when he goes and gives a speech to the team and all the staff is there again, says it's important to have the staff hear it twice and to make sure that we all have the same message when we talk to the players, that everybody is coming from the same point. So I want your feedback, and I want to know if you think something's dumb or if you think something's off or whatever. We can change that before we go talk to the players. But when we talk to the players, it has to be as a group, because we need them to not start picking sides. We need this to be a team from top to bottom. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, everything has to be unified. You have to have a unified vision for not just your goals, but the way that you approach your work every day. And everybody's got to be on the same page. The coaches especially have to be on the same page, because there can't be contradictory lessons in the way you're teaching a certain drill or a certain way of talking to your players or a workout or whatever the case may be. So it sounds like he's not cutting any corners when it comes to the way that he plans each and everything within this program. And that's why he's been so successful.
A couple other little points there before we move on about this, and I'll play you one more clip before we get out too. But some interesting parts of he did talk about the ever-changing landscape of college football and how much things are moving around, and how much he's like, I wish I could say it was even monthly, but it feels like it's weekly, and you don't know what time you're going to play. You don't know, sometimes your planes are going to have problems, and you show up later. And sometimes you get there and the weather's different than what you'd planned on it being. And it was the comfortable being uncomfortable. We have to make them continually change things up on them. So not having practices at the same time every day and completely changing things up and not having the same routine to let them get comfortable and say, well, for an 11 o'clock game, we're going to be ready. No one's going to beat us at 11 a.m. All right, you're playing at 2:30. Shit. All right, well, now we got to change. So, really trying to change it so that you're constantly comfortable. Or, every week we get in the, this is when we get in the team bus. This is when we get on the plane. This is when we get to the hotel. And then the plane's 2 hours late because there was a problem. And now everything's thrown off. And now all the players are off. You go, no, be comfortable in that. Or whether it's a change, a rule change. And, hey, we're going to take a little different this because now that's an illegal motion. So we have to change the way they're going to call it. That's going to be an illegal motion this year. We have to change the way you're facing or the way your feet are set or where you're on the line of scrimmage, or we have to change if there's an injury. The running back position last year, you didn't know who was going to play from snap to snap sometimes at the running back. You had to have all of those pieces, and that comfortable being uncomfortable is something that really feels like it starts with Sark and him learning on the job that was so important to just say, don't get too flustered because then it starts to unravel really quickly.
Yeah, I noticed in years past with various different football teams, depending on the time of day, is when they try to show up for a football game. Like there's a lot of programs out there who aren't as well prepared and well coached and well run as Texas, who, if they have an 11 o'clock game against a team that they're supposed to beat by 30 points, they come out there and they put up a stinker, and it's a lot closer than it should be. Like Texas A&M, for example, under Jimbo Fisher, had plenty of games like that. They go into a matchup with Appalachian State expecting to drag them through the mud, and they end up losing that game because they weren't prepared and they weren't ready. So it all comes down to preparation and trust, but being comfortable when things are uncomfortable is also critical, because it helps you learn how to do things, not just, in terms of times changing, but when you're facing adversity and, when, there's pressure on you in other aspects of the game. It just, you always have to be prepared for the worst possible outcome. And it sounds like he's doing that and making sure that those guys are ready for whatever's thrown at them, no matter the time of day or the situation in the game or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, and I like my man Chan on the text line says, I like how Sark uses the word infect the ecosystem. And that's kind of, yes, people can, definitely a bad attitude can infect the ecosystem, and you can infect it with positive things. But he also talked about Quinn's impact on this team. And, he dropped the same line about people being upset at him not transferring because he went in the 7th round, but those are the same people that get mad at anybody for transferring. But him setting up the Quinn transfers, like, dude, we were a 5-7 team when he came here. It wasn't like he was coming to a great Texas team and we had all these things lined up for him. And then it's like, if Quinn doesn't come, we don't necessarily get the recruits that we need. Because he came and he's a top recruit, we're able to get other guys. And it's what he says, if Quinn doesn't come, the next 5 maybe don't come. And if the next 5 don't come, maybe the next 10 don't come. And that domino effect of what Quinn meant to Texas and this rebuild it's really a good point. And it's really emphasis of everybody who maybe looked at Quinn last year and didn't have the respect for him. And I get, you can still say Arch is better, he shouldn't have been playing, and screw it and screw being polite or whatever else you want to say. At the end of the day, Quinn meant a ton to Sark in rebuilding this program and a ton to Texas football to help put him back on the map. And you can't say he 2 college football playoffs now from a guy who came to a 5-7 team, wanted to bring Texas back. He has a massive impact on this Texas program. And you can tell Sark is trying to be positive about it at the end of the day and not say, I think all you guys are being idiots for not drafting him until the 7th. but at the same part, just going, I know what he is.
Yeah, this is kind of something that the more and more that I think about it, the more and more I just do not understand the mentality of doubting and hating on Quinn Ewers throughout his career here. All the guy did was win. All he did was bring this program back from the brink of death. Truly, he brought them back from the brink of death and took Texas back to where they're supposed to be. He went 11-1 on the road as a starter. He did he accomplished things that Colt McCoy and Vince Young never accomplished by getting to 2 straight conference championship games, 2 straight college football playoffs. I mean, he's third in the history of the program in passing yards and passing touchdowns. He's 4th in the history of the program, or I think 3rd in the history of program. And no, it's 4th in total wins, and he had a year less than Colt McCoy and Bobby Lane in that category. So, it's and all that kid did was fight through injuries and put his body on the line every single day and put himself through pain and lead a program and never complained about a damn thing. And the entire season last year, after the Michigan game, people were just trashing him all year. I don't understand it. If Texas fans can just separate the Arch Manning name from the rest of this season, there was never a person who was better to lead this program at any point in the last 3 years than Quinn Ewers. And Texas fans need to accept that. They need to give him his flowers, and they need to put some respect back on his name, because he has had more of an impact on this program than any player that has come through here in the last 15 years.
No, and it's funny because, I mean, we can go back and you can talk about Chris Sims, and while you can talk about all the things that he did on the field, Chris Sims' impact in recruiting was really, really big. It was that a lot of players, it gave you the belief that we got a bona fide superstar coming in. Guys, we're about to take off. I want to be on the ship that's about to take off, and I know where it's going. Now, maybe you didn't reach those goals, but I feel like that was kind of the issue with Chris Sims, and especially I know it was the issue for Quinn Ewers, was we're expecting you to be great 99.9% of the time, and you were great 90%, which is really good. You were great 90% of the time. And 10%, you made some bonehead plays. But because of that 10%, we're going to say that you're 70% bad. And we're going to overextend those 10% of plays that you didn't necessarily have that were great. You're like, that's just, if you're extremely lucky. I was talking to a friend the other night, and he was talking about something in sports, and I go, that's the opinion of a person who watches one team. And I'm not saying, the people who listen to this, I'm not saying it. This is somebody who I know watches one team. And so I was like, that's the opinion of someone who watches. I'm like, you can't criticize this guy because he messes up 5% of the time. Most people mess up 30, 40% of the time. Like, it is a much wider margin than you would think between this guy and the next guy. And so it's like, that's kind of where Quinn fell into it, is you were expecting the greatest, walks on water, can fix everything. And he wasn't necessarily the guy at the end of the game who was going to pull it out. But even when he does against Arizona State and hits an amazing pass to win the game, he doesn't really get his flowers, because the conversation is we shouldn't have been there. And so it just never quite got there. You feel for him. I think history will react better to him, because I think when people look at the stats, when people look at the records, and when people look at 2 college football playoffs and all of those things, I think history will come back and shine very, very brightly on Quinn Ewers. Just in the moment, there's always going to be Debbie Downers who are going to be able to come out there and tell you, no, we're not good enough unless we go undefeated and win a national title. And I mean covering spreads. I mean, I don't want to sweat during a single game that year. No interceptions, no turnovers. Then that is when we have a good team. And like, that is not reality. That's no one's reality. So that's where Quinn, you just say it's not reality to believe a lot of these things. I'm hoping Arch is better. I really, really do. But I'll say this. Quinn Ewers had a hell of a career at Texas, and it's so important to the franchise. And it's really, really good to hear Sark really still defend him, even though he is no longer in the program. still putting out there, I know what he meant, and one day you'll probably realize it too.
Yeah, I mean, this is why players love Sark so much, is because he'll go to bat for them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, whether they're still in the program or not. But, Texas is a fan base, and like I've been around it my whole life, so I know it as well as anyone. There's a couple of different things about the Texas fan base. One, it's very entitled, which given the history of the program, they have the right to be entitled, I suppose. But it's also very much a "what have you done for me lately?" type
most
of
things
culture.
Sports are. Yeah, most things sports are.
So that is why in the moment there was a lot of people who were hating on Quinn, I believe. But I want those same people who were pounding the table for Arch last year when Quinn was putting up 350 yards against Georgia in the SEC championship game. I want those same people to carry that same energy for Arch next year when he comes out and throws a couple of picks in a game or doesn't have the best game of all time.
I want y'all to grow as humans.
because Texas fans, unless they win all 17 games next year by a score of 50-0, and Arch has 5 touchdowns in every single game and throws for 300 yards in every single game, they're going to complain about something and they're not going to be happy about something that he does. And that's just the pressure that comes with being the Texas quarterback, and it's unfortunate, but I don't think that anybody could have possibly handled it better than Quinn Ewers did the last 3 years.
I think he did a great job. He also talks about pressure, and it was a funny way he put it in this interview about game day and, being a coach and trying to be calm and in the moment and, how you handle it. And he's like, I love game day, but you have to think of it like once we start getting into it, imagine having to make a decision every 30 seconds and like important decisions. But he's like, imagine if you had to pick where to eat every 30 seconds and you've only got 15 seconds to make the decision. And so it's like, what are we having for dinner tonight? And you got 15 seconds. And he's like, and if you don't make it in that, it's a delay of game. And so it's a penalty and it costs you. But he's like, it's just something simple. You go, that decision normally is a 10-minute decision of where you go to eat. And for him, every play is okay. I have to make sure. And, even when he talked about self-evaluating, he talked about sometimes you call a play and it gets a touchdown and you go back and watch it on film and you go, that was a terrible call. We just got lucky. So you have to be able to watch and really judge everything you do. But it was funny for him to put it that way. And he's like, it's a decision every 30 seconds for the entire game. And you're just constantly under pressure and pushing and trying to make sure you're doing the right thing. It's like when you think about it that way, again, when people say Sark makes some bad play calls, you're like, you would. If you're involved in 120 play calls in a game on offense and defense that you're talking about, you're probably going to whiff on a few.
Yeah. That's what always cracks me up so much about these people who complain about Sark's play calling or complain about play calling in general. Calling plays in football, especially at the level that Texas is at and at the NFL too, that has to be the hardest job in sports. Like as a coach, like just every 30 seconds, you got to figure out a way that you're going to put your team in the best possible position to win while trying to figure out what the other team is going to throw at you to compete against that. And you have to figure, okay, they have these guys on the field. This is the set that I'm going to throw out there. These are the routes that we're going to run. All these different things. It is so hard. It's a science. Like you have to, like coaches have a PhD in this kind of stuff. It's not easy. So, the people that complain about the play calling, I would ask them, when's the last time you had to make a decision within 15 seconds on the fly in the biggest pressure moment of your life and then do it 100 times within the span of 4 hours?
Yeah. No, I get it. It's
crazy.
Rough. We'll play you one more clip right here. This is Sark just telling it when he's asked about how he feels about his team this year. So a little bit more positivity. We'll go on positivity when we finish talking about Sark here while he was on Josh Pate doing an interview. It's available on YouTube if you want to watch the whole thing. It's a really good interview. You should check it out.
I don't think we're a finished product. And if I said we were, that'd probably be lying, right? We've had some young players that have grown up in our program that we're excited about on both sides of the line of scrimmage. We've brought in some transfers, most notably on the defensive side of the ball, that helped us this spring. We brought in a couple more in the spring portal window that I think are going to be great additions for us. But I think for us as a program, this summer is going to be huge. The June and July are our skill development stuff that we work on. The team aspect of really bringing this team together. Our Culture Wednesdays are going to be big. Their work with Tori Becton, right, in the weight room, running in the Austin heat on Tuesday and Thursday afternoons at 4 p.m, where it feels like the hottest place on the earth. But that's when we grow together as a team. And then training camp's going to be a big thing. And we've got to push these guys. We've got to remain demanding of them, of what the standard is around here, and instill it in them. And that's a responsibility on a lot of their teammates too, to get that done. When you bring in new faces, we always try to ensure is that they acclimate to us. We don't acclimate to them. And so that's why we're so strategic, and we really take our time when it comes to the portal. We just don't bring anybody in here. There's a lot of really good players out there. It's not just about any. It might not always be the best player. Yeah. It's the best player that fits us. And that's something that we've tried to do and hold on to, and so far it's worked out pretty good for us.
There it is. And agree with him wholly. This summer is very big for them. It's a young team now. There's a lot of new players that are going to have to work in there. Even guys like Colin Simmons is still a young player, and what he finds his role at. Get a new secondary with Dwayne Aquina and getting everybody in place there after losing Jade Barron and Andrew Makuba. There's just a lot that they've got to get ready for. And so this summer, I agree with him. It's huge. All the pieces are there, but you got to get all the pieces ready, because it's going to be, you got to be ready and in shape. And I think Texas knows that. And hopefully you do have those good young leaders and Arch and everybody else who's going to be able to get guys in line and ready to go.
Yeah, this is where you're really going to lean on Arch, for example, to get the guys out there working out, running routes, just going through workouts together this summer when the coaches can't be with them. You're going to rely on your strength and conditioning team, because they're the only parts of the staff that are really allowed to have contact with the players this summer in terms of like hands-on workouts and things like that. So that stuff's all critical. And the thing that he said about the transfer portal too, about bringing the right guys in, that is something that has set him apart from all of these other programs around the country that bring in transfers, because he picks the ones that fit his culture and his scheme and his team. Whereas a lot of these other ones are just like, oh, Micah Hudson was a five-star plus recruit from On3, and he's probably the most talented receiver in the transfer portal. We need to go get him. It's like, well, there's a reason that he left, and maybe he isn't the best fit for what you're trying to do exactly, and all that kind of stuff. And I think that's why he always hits so many home runs with these transfers, even if they're not the biggest names. Like, even if they're not the 5-star plus guy coming out of high school. And like, this is the kind of thing that got Texas A&M into trouble under Jimbo Fisher, when they got the best recruiting class of all time. And like 5 of those guys are now in the program still, because all the other ones, they just weren't good character guys. They didn't fit in with the program, and it was a bunch of me type stuff. And he's bringing in guys that are about us and not me.
Yeah, exactly. It's a good fit. Yeah, Matthew Golden really is probably your poster child of that now, which is a guy that was coming out of Houston. You knew he was talented, like especially us who watched him play at Houston and saw him play against Texas at Houston. We were like, that guy's really good, but he wasn't necessarily anyone's top wide receiver in the class. And then he's a first-round draft pick coming out early. That's a junior coming out that has another year of eligibility that's able to go and be a top pick in the draft and have the moment with the Green Bay Packers fans and everything. That's something really impressive that he's able to do in that transfer portal, and he's trying to do it again with some of the guys he's brought in, like Jack Indries and Emmett Mosley. Those are guys that you hope to bring in that are culture fits, that aren't necessarily the top guys. They're not tippity top best players in the portal, but they're also really good players, and they fit what Texas is trying to do. So putting all that together, getting those guys integrated with the young guys who are in it, getting those guys that are going to, teach them how it is, have them ready for spring, and have them ready for fall when that camp starts. I mean, there's a lot to look forward to, but it's going to be, we'll keep seeing those reports over the summer and seeing guys work out. I know next week we're supposed to get into the 90s or the high 90s already. Like Saturdays, the high's 81. And then on Wednesday after next week, I think it's like 99. So it is supposed to warm up fast here in Austin. And those guys graduate and get out there and start sweating because it's going to be a long summer. But it'll put Texas in a really good spot for next season.
Yeah, Patrick, I'm not built for the heat, man. I'm not.
Why do you think I've been out working on the pool trying to get it back and ready? Like, get the pool ready, man. And again, I'm not too fancy, guys. I live in a house with other people, and it's an above ground pool, but we're getting it ready.
Yeah, no, this is going to be a very difficult summer for them. You know, just getting all these things integrated back into the program, and these guys ready to go, and all that stuff, and that and I know nobody's had higher expectations of this team than I have over the last couple of weeks. I told you a couple of weeks ago that I thought they were going to win the national title, but also I think people should caution themselves a little bit because there are so many new faces and you don't know exactly what it's going to look like. You can have the expectations in the world, but if the pieces don't gel and guys don't take a step forward to replace the 12 guys that they put into the NFL, then, you could struggle a little bit in air quotes. I mean, they're going to be a really good team no matter what, but
yeah,
that's why this summer is so critical because you have to make sure that every single piece is fitting in the right way and that every guy is ready to go and take his responsibility that's increased over the next few months because, guys like Colin Simmons are one thing because you know what he is, but then, you're putting in a new left guard, you're putting in a new right tackle, you're putting in all new defensive tackles, you're putting in, a new wide receiver, new tight end. So those pieces all have to fit and they all have to be on the same page for this to be a successful team.
There you go. All right, let's take a quick break. When we come back, I want to talk some NBA playoffs, another fun comeback last night. I also want to talk I put together a list of some of the biggest offseason moves in the NFL because we saw a big one yesterday, and I want to get Matt's grade. I'll grade him too. Some of these moves where if we felt they helped the team, if they were good moves, bad moves. I want to go through some of those as well. We've also got some lists from college football, some other fun stuff coming up on the show. And, of course, anything else you guys want to talk about. You guys are always a third host here on Open Gym. So if you want to text in 512-222-9328, or you can hit us up here in the chat on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and X. But we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with more from Open Gym with myself, Patrick Davis, alongside Matt Galatzan from Texas Longhorns on SI.
The best sports bar in Austin, Texas, USA, America is Cover 3. They've got everything you're looking for in a great sports bar. TVs everywhere, so there's not a bad seat in the house, and they've got the right games on. You're not going to have to ask the bartenders, the waitresses, the waiters for the game that you want to watch. They know the games that you want to watch, and the food. My goodness, that's what separates Cover 3 from the other sports bars out there. An upscale menu with tons of great items. You got to try the Sean Adams prime rib sandwich. They've got the filet mignon. They've got the fish tacos. Of course, all of the sports bar classics like wings and nachos as well. Great burgers, great salads. I'm telling you, something for everyone. Of course, the full bar happy hour prices, the weekend brunch. You got to check them out. Anderson Lane, Round Rock, and San Antonio. And, of course, Cover 2, 183 and Lake Creek. It's Cover 3, dining, spirits, sports.
Hi, I'm Dan Covert with my wife Hayden. Welcome to Covert BK.
Our newest location in the gorgeous Hill Country includes Buick, GMC, Cadillac, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram, and hundreds of pre-owned and certified vehicles for you to choose from. We have 3 service departments that are ready to take care of your car, truck, or SUV with 86 service bays to accommodate any repair and get you in and out quickly. Come visit us today to select the vehicle you've been dreaming about.
Covert, born and raised in Austin.
Shout out to Leaf Landscape Supply, a full service and wholesale and retail plant nursery and landscape supplier here in the ATX. They have 2 terrific locations. Y'all should check both of them out. If you're up north, hit up the one on Pond Springs Road. If you're down south, hit up the one off Monterey Oaks and 290. If you're looking for large quantities of supplies to fulfill any landscaping job, trendy house plants, a collection of specialty plants and rare plants, Leaf Landscape Supplies, your one-stop shop for everything you need. Go to their website, leaflandscapesupply.com, so you can check it out before you get there, what you want. And when you do get there and you're in the checkout line, let them know your boy Zay Collier put you on, the boys at Texas Sports Unfiltered, and you get 10% off. 10% off, can't beat that at Leaf Landscape Supply.
Hi, this is Tom McKay, owner of Audiovisual Consultations.
I got this, Dad. This is Camilla McKay, and my dad can help with any TV or stereo needs you have around your house. Just call him, and he will come to you with advice and a great price. And the guys that work for him are awesome. They can install anything, anywhere. So, like my dad says, just relax and smile. We handle all the work.
So just give us a call at 255-8678 or on the web at avconsultations.com.
Back here on Open Gym on Texas Sports Unfiltered, coming in on Thursday afternoon, getting closer to the weekend. A little maybe a few clouds in the sky right now. Maybe get a little rain here in Austin, and then should clear out for the weekend and have a good Mother's Day weekend. Reminder to everybody, if you have not figured out Mother's Day is on Sunday. It's a reminder to every guy out there, Mother's Day is on Sunday. Don't be a screw up and forget about it and then wonder why your mom's calling you at 7 p.m. on a Sunday. You're like, why is my mom calling me? Because you forgot Mother's Day. So set an alarm in your phone if you're an idiot like me. And Mother's Day, talk to your mom. I'm going to go see my mom, so we'll be good. But if you can't see her, if you're not fortunate enough to do that, or if you have a wife, you got kids, make sure it's Mother's Day, Sunday. Try and remind everybody. These are important days to not forget.
Yeah, that's something that you learn as you get older. Is you got to always remember Mother's Day. Father's Day, it's that can be forgotten. Dad's not going to mind that too much, but Mother's Day, you better have some flowers or some cookies or something ready for her.
Yeah, you better be ready for Mother's Day. And look, Father's Day, to take care of Father. I'll remind everybody for Father's Day too. It is not quite the same urgency of Mother's Day.
Yeah, because dads just don't care as much.
Yeah, dads are like, hey, look, you leaving me alone sometimes is Father's Day. So
yeah, exactly.
Sometimes depends. I want to get into this topic with you because we did see a big trade yesterday, which is going to be on my list. I have 12 off-season moves. So not all trades, some are signings, but 12 off-season moves that happen in the NFL that I feel are pretty big moves that are going to affect the NFL season next year. And I want to get your opinion, Matt, and I'll rank mine as well. And if you guys want to jump in and judge any of these on the chat or the text line, feel free to jump in on that as well. But I have 12 different ones. I had 10, and then I forgot the Texans ones at the end. So I put the Texans ones in at the end to help us out. But 12 big trades or signings. We'll start off with Stefon Diggs. Stefon Diggs signing with the Patriots. He signs a 3-year, $63 million deal. A lot of that's not necessarily guaranteed. Maybe some of that's incentive based, but a 3-year, $63 million deal for Stefon Diggs to the Patriots. It gives them a wide receiver with a name which they have not had in a very long time. I know they're putting Julian Edelman in the Hall of Fame or the Patriots Hall of Fame, but that is really Edelman, probably the last one you would say that was a wide receiver that really had a name there, and they've been struggling ever since. And even that, Edelman was as good as a wide receiver, wasn't necessarily the big play threat that you would hope to have on your team. The last big play threat they had was Randy Moss. That's been a while. So they haven't really had the guy out there in New England in a while. They're trying to add some people to maybe recruit some guys. There are some negatives to this as well, though, because Stefon Diggs can't really stay on a team. He seems to have maybe some problems in the locker room. Where do you grade Stefon Diggs to the Patriots?
How are we grading this? Are we doing like a scale?
A,
like
B,
1 to
C,
10?
D. Yeah,
ABC?
you can go A. You can go A minus, B, any of those.
I'm gonna go with like a C plus. Like I maybe a C actually, because like he's a very talented guy. We've seen what he can do in the past, but I don't think that he's the same player that he used to be, number one. And his ability to stay on the field has been in question as well, just because of some injury stuff. He's still the best receiver they've had in quite some time, so you got to give him some credit there. and they took a big swing. So you gotta praise them for being aggressive. But if I were them, I would have tried to find a different way to do this rather than go get a guy who's injury prone and aging.
Yeah, I mean, he is coming off an ACL tear last season with the Texans. That's where his season ended there. The Texans made the trade for him. I give this a B. I think it's a good idea. I think you have to make some of these moves. I think you have a young quarterback and you really want to get him some targets. Like, you just had to go get him some targets. And so dealing with Stephon Diggs for the next year, maybe two, I don't think he'd be there for all three, but if you can get him for the next year or two, and you just give Drake May something to try and throw the ball to instead of just guys who can't get open and can't do anything. I think this is a good signing to show some faith, but it's not a long-term solution. He won't be there when the Patriots are winning again if they're able to turn it around with Mike Vrabel and get there. So I'll give him a solid B because I like the effort, but I'm not going to say that this move is going to be super impactful and win a lot of playoff games for him. But I'll go with a B on that one.
I can see that.
I'll say, all right, the Rams signed Davante Adams, a 2-year, $24 million deal, or $44 million deal, I believe. 2 years, $44 million. He comes in. He is coming off a year with the Jets that was okay. I mean, it wasn't necessarily setting anything on fire. He had some really, really good games in there, but that whole last season for the Jets is kind of everybody wants to forget. He's been with the Raiders without a quarterback for a while, but we know what he used to be, and he still showed it at times last year. Now he comes in with a really good quarterback in Matt Stafford, who maybe is a little bit older, maybe has trouble staying on the field as much, but is a really good quarterback when he's out there in Matt Stafford. So bringing in him to replace a Cooper Kupp that they moved on from, what do you got this? What do you rank this signing for the Rams signing Davante Adams?
I have this one as an A because I still think Davante Adams is a top 5 receiver in the NFL if he's got a decent quarterback throwing him the football and he's in the right offense. Losing Cooper Kupp was kind of a blow, but then to come and bring in a guy who's top 5 at his position in the NFL, it can be a real big play threat for you and open things up for the rest of your offense with Puka Nacua and Tutu Atwell and the running game they have there with Kyron Williams. I think this move put them in the conversation to compete in the NFC for a Super Bowl. So I'm giving them an A for it.
Nice. I have an A for this one as well. I think the amount of money you paid him to was really, you didn't have to give up a ton. I don't think he's a top 5 wide receiver anymore. But I do think he's still a really good wide receiver. I have to go through and look at, top 10 and top 15 of where you'd put him on that. He has definitely lost a step there. And I mean, a lot of it too is you're going to have to rebuild his love of football a little bit more. And I don't think he lost a ton of it, but you lose a little bit when you just play on teams that aren't doing anything and when you're not competing. And so finding that fire back in him to compete on every play, block downfield, all those little pieces that you wanted to be able to do that he can do, he did in Green Bay, to bring all that back out of him, I think is going to be a little bit, but for the price you got him for, 100% it's a good signing, and it does fill the need you have, and you were able to get probably the best free agent wide receiver that was out there for a really good price. So A for them.
Yeah. One other thing real quick, you talk about the love of football thing. I think that he really if there was a point where he started to lose that, it was when he was with Las Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a viral clip of him that I still see it to this day, where he says, "I have to get the F out of here before I lose my effing life. I've never been hit so many times in my effing career." And I think that's probably when he was like, I don't know if I can do this anymore, but he's in a good situation now.
And we know that I don't know if that was with Derek Carr or without him, but Derek Carr has been accused, and him and Derek Carr, college buddies. That's why he wanted to go to Oakland or wanted to go to Vegas. And I think that there was a part of that where he got there and realized, like, this dude throws too many hospital balls, man. Throws too many hospital balls. Their next one, the Seahawks signed Sam Darnold to a 3-year, $100 million deal. They replaced their quarterback with Sam Darnold. We know he's coming off a good year with the Vikings. I won't say a great year. The Vikings played really well. He played well on that team. But he wasn't necessarily setting the world on fire. When it got later in the season playoffs, he wasn't necessarily looking like the best player in the world. For a quarterback, this is not a ton of money. It's real. I mean, you're talking about 30-something million a year. That's not a lot. Brock Purdy's about to get $50 million a year. So it's not a ton of money, but we don't know what Sam Darnold you're going to get in Seattle. Where do you rank this one? What's your grade on this trade or in this signing?
I have this one a little bit above Stephon Diggs at a C+. I'm not blown away by it. I think if he plays the way that he played in Minnesota and Seattle, then it'll be a little bit higher of a grade. But it kind of just feels like a bridge move to me, where they're bringing in a guy that can just get them through the next couple of years and win them some games until they can bring in a new guy for the long term. So it's nothing crazy, but it's a move where, it makes sense for them at least.
Yeah. So they drafted Milroe as well. So Milroe is their backup now. That they are maybe going to see what he can do and see if that's the guy that it's a bridge to Milroe or if they're going to go get somebody else. I gave this one a C. Because Seattle's in a really weird place because you're dealing with, we'll get to the DK Metcalf trade, but you brought back in Cooper Kupp. Your team's just not there right now. You're not really super competitive, but you're starting, like, signing Sam Darnold to this deal feels like you're trying to put yourself into no man's land. And you either need to be bad or you need to be good. But trying to place yourself to get the 15th pick in the draft every year feels like a losing proposition, even on, trying to build a bridge. And I know you're going to try and bring in other pieces or trade, but, maybe you just don't have a quarterback for a year. Maybe you go out there and stink it up for a year and get a good draft pick and then go get your quarterback and then really start to try and rebuild around that. Or, maybe go that route, and take the natural evolution. I get you have a new coach that's a year in, so they don't really want to do that. But if I'm the new coach of Seattle and I had Geno Smith and then now I know I'm tied to Sam Darnold, I'm a little worried about my coaching future. So I'm like, now when Sam Darnold doesn't work out, am I going to get a third quarterback? A lot of coaches don't get three quarterbacks. And so I have to make this work. And I know they brought in a defensive coach, but it's not necessarily going to work. So I give it a C. Here's one that was a little under the radar because he's coming off an injury. He's turning off an Achilles, and Achilles are sometimes career enders or really career halters or whatever it is. But the Broncos signed Dre Greenlaw. This was a really elite Broncos defense last year. Dre Greenlaw was a really, really good linebacker before he tore his Achilles. He's only 27 years old. He signs a 3-year, $35 million deal, so it's good money, but it's not crazy money, to put into a really good defense. Heady linebacker, may not have the speed. You're taking a risk on how he recovers from the Achilles, but at 27, still kind of able to bounce back from those types of things a little bit. How do you feel about the Broncos signing Dre Greenlaw?
I would have been a lot more excited about this for them if it wasn't for the Achilles.
Yeah, of course.
But I'm going to give it a B just because, I still think it's a good move. He's young enough to get better, to get his health better. So I have hopes that he's going to be able to do that when he is healthy. He's one of the best linebackers in football, and then you add him to a defense that was already elite, which also added Jahdae Barron to the secondary. It has its potential to be a really good move. I just can't put it any higher than that because you're not sure what you're going to get until you see it.
No, I'm with you. I have a B+ on it because I do think, you're adding in, and we don't have draft picks on here, but, now you have Jahdae Barron, who's a really smart player, and Dre Greenlaw's a really smart player into this really good defense. And it's one of those pieces that I think there's a chance that it works out insanely great for them, and there's a chance that it works out okay for them. I don't necessarily think Dre Greenlaw's career is going to be so impacted that he can't do anything for you anymore. But if he's not going to be the same player and he's going to be a step slower, then you go, okay, we spent a little bit too much money on him, but it's still a good player and he knows where to be in the right spots. So I think it's a B+ move, and it's kind of one of those underrated moves because of the Achilles, but I like it. Now I've got a bunch of trades coming up now, as those are some of the bigger signings. I want to go in the trades, and we can grade both sides of this trade too, because there's two teams involved in all these, so we can grade both sides of these. We'll start off with Geno Smith, since we already talked about Sam Darnold. We'll talk about Geno Smith. The Seahawks trade him to the Raiders for a 3rd-round pick They signed him to a 2-year, $75 million extension after that as well. But basically, Geno Smith to the Raiders for a 3rd-round pick. What do you give this from the Seahawks side and from the Raiders side?
I think it's kind of a C+ move for both teams.
Okay.
I feel like Seattle may have gotten the better deal out of this, just because you get a 3rd-round pick, which could turn into a good player. I don't know who they picked with that 3rd-round pick.
I have to look it up, yeah.
Yeah, so I can look that up while you're giving your rebuttal here. But for the Raiders, it's like it's kind of the Sam Darnold situation, but worse. Like, you're bringing in a guy who's a game manager and who's okay and who can win you a couple games, but you're a team who's rebuilding, and maybe he wins you a couple games that if you lose, maybe you're in a better position to get to draft a future starter going forward. So I don't know. Like, I get it. Like, it's Pete Carroll's first year. He wants to have a guy that he can trust back there. But I don't expect them to be markedly better than they were a year ago. Even though they got Ashton Genty, but like there's not a lot else on that team. So it's kind of a wash to me. I don't really, it doesn't really move me very far in either direction.
Yeah, I think they might have ended up trading that pick. Then the 3rd round, they took Jalen Milroe with the 28th pick, but I don't think it would have been that pick. I think it would have been I think they would have been earlier in the draft. Right? If I'm thinking correctly of what the Raiders pick would have been in the 3rd round, it wouldn't have been the 28th pick of the 3rd round. So they may have traded that off in another move. So they've used it for something else. But we look at that. I'll say I give this, for the Seahawks, I give it an A-. You look, again, you weren't going anywhere with Geno. Clearly, he wasn't going to be a part of the future plans, and you got a 3rd-round pick for him. That's pretty decent for Geno Smith. I mean, in all reality, Geno Smith for a 3rd is pretty decent for the Seahawks to be able to get a 3rd-round pick back out of it instead of just basically letting him go after this year. They get a 3rd-round pick, which is nice. Then for the Raiders, I'll say this is a B. I don't love it. I don't think it's anything more. I get the culture fit. I get Pete Carroll trying to put that in there. So it's not a long-term thing. The 2-year extension, it's only 2 years. So none of it really feels like it's too much of anything. And you're giving up a 3rd. You'd love to have that 3rd-round pick, but you're not going to get someone to set a culture like Geno Smith for the 3rd-round pick either. So not necessarily for his playing. I think you're able to get a quarterback to help you build what you want to build without necessarily winning you too many games, which I know sounds backwards. But again, you don't necessarily want to win too many games. You don't want to get stuck at winning 7-8 games a year. That's really not where you want to be, because now you're never going to get the top next guy. You're going to have to really try and find somebody at pick 10 through 12. You can't trade up because your pick doesn't hold enough value. And you're really hard to move out of that without signing some big guys, and then your contracts come in. So I'll say I'll give him a B for it, but it's not necessarily because of his playing. It's just more that he has that leadership ability. Our next trade, the Houston Texans traded Laramie Tunsil to the Commanders for a 3rd, a 2nd, a 7th, and a 4th. In the 4th, they swap. So it's a 4th of the 2025 going one way and a 2026 going the other way. But basically a 3rd, 2nd, and a 7th. They get Laramie Tunsil in the Commanders. Where do you grade this one, Matt?
For the Commanders, I have this as a B. Like, had Tunsil played better last year, I probably would have given it a higher grade. But you still bring in a guy who's capable of being an elite left tackle to protect your future franchise quarterback. You gave up quite a few draft picks for it, but you're putting your faith in a guy who's shown that he can be a dominant left tackle and protect the future of your franchise. So, it's a B for them, in my opinion. For the Texans, I think it's a B+, because you got a pretty good haul of draft picks, and you moved off of a big contract in Laramie Tunsil that was kind of tying you down and allowed you to kind of reshape your offensive line room and rebuild it after it was so terrible last year. And I think it helps the culture in there as well. So I'm going to go with a B+.
Yeah. I have for the Commanders, I have a B+ of, I thought that this was a good trade, but the main problem is you gave up a ton of picks for a guy who you're going to have to pay in a year. And that's really where it is. I know Laramie Tunsil's going to want his money. And so you gave up a lot for a guy that the Texans basically were like, we're not going to pay him again. We don't want to have to pay him one more time because we know what he's doing for us. So we're ready to move on from him. So I like it for them, but the fact that you're going to have to make that commitment to him very quickly, or you gave up all that to let him walk away, is a really big, that's kind of the swing of my rating for the Commanders. For the Texans, I give it a C. I get it. This is a guy you'd like to be able to get a first-round pick for. You gave up so much for him. You paid him a ton of money. I get he's not really worth it, but you would have liked to been able to get a first-round pick for him. Apparently, that market wasn't there, but I think, when you get there, you got a lot of picks. A 7th doesn't really do a lot for you. A 2nd and 3rd's good, but, man, that first, that's what you want. You want that first-round pick. So I'll put it on there. I give him a C. Look, I don't dislike the trade, but if I'm going to be objective about it, you trade away a left tackle that is supposed to be one of the top left tackles in the league. It's supposed to be a franchise left tackle, and you don't necessarily get a pick that can fix that same position. That's where the problem lies. But, I don't hate it because I don't have the same opinion as Laramie Tunsil as some other ones, but objectively, we'll go with that. Our next one, we're only going to grade the Bears on this one, but just your opinion on the Bears trading Joe Thuney, getting Joe Thuney for a 4th and Jonah Jackson for a 6th, rebuilding this offensive line, going out and making trades. What do you give the Bears for their attempt to rebuild this offensive line for Caleb Williams?
I think it's a B+ just because you got to do everything you can to invest in protecting that quarterback.
Yeah.
He was running for his life last year, so you're bringing in guys who you hope can fix that. I'm not sure exactly what they gave up for it off the top of my head, but it's a trade that you're investing into your franchise and your future franchise quarterback and keeping him upright. So I'm all about that.
Yeah, 4th and a 6th to get 2 guys in to help you out and to start on your offensive line. I'm all about. I'll give it an A-. You didn't even give up a 3rd. Now, are those guys going to be able to play at that level and continue to go? That's to be seen, but I'll give you an A- on that one. Let's go to DK Metcalf. DK Metcalf and a 6th-round pick traded to the Steelers for a second-round pick and a 7th. Really, this is about the 2nd-round pick for DK Metcalf. Traded to the Steelers. What do you go on that one?
For the Seahawks, I give this a B+ because you got the 2nd-round pick. I don't like this for the Steelers. I love DK Metcalf. He's one of my favorite Ole Miss players ever. I pick him in fantasy football almost every year. But for the Steelers to go out and trade for a guy who's supposed to be a top-of-the-line wide receiver and you still don't have a quarterback to throw him the football yet, doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I would have invested all of my time and focus into finding a quarterback and then putting weapons around him. If you go find a quarterback that's not, that you can rely on, that's not Aaron Rodgers, then, you have George Pickens there already, and he's capable of being an elite receiver. So, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me if I'm them because they don't have anybody to get them the football. So they gave up a 2nd-round pick for a guy who's probably not going to have a great year.
No, yeah. So I'll put it this way. I threw out there for Seattle, I gave it an A-. You got a 2nd-round pick. Good job for getting a 2nd-round pick for DK Metcalf. And the Steelers, I gave a B- basically for the same reason you're saying. You don't have a quarterback yet, man. So you can't be going out there and trying to get everybody to put in there. And, now we know also you're going to get rid of George Pickens. So you're really just kind of switching guys around and upgrading what you feel is an upgrade at that position. But you did it without getting a quarter. So it just feels like it's more kind of the same. And you're just getting a guy that isn't disgruntled yet. We'll see what that Pittsburgh locker room does to him with DK Metcalf. But I'm with you. It just felt like this is not all, you're just ignoring it. Like when there's a big hole in the ceiling and you're cleaning the floor and you're like, I get the floor needs to be cleaned. There's a hole in the ceiling. There's a giant hole. It's raining. Yeah, well, we just got to, sweep it up, though. Sweep up the floor. Fix the hole in the ceiling first. We'll get to the floor later. Fix the hole in the ceiling, guys. That's what it feels like right now with Seattle, just kind of ignoring everything. I still fully believe they expect Aaron Rodgers to be their quarterback, and he either had some things that he wanted them to do first before he went and signed there, or he just has not given them the full okay yet. But I think that's their philosophy from the beginning of this offseason, basically, is we're going to get Aaron Rodgers, and that's going to be our guy, and then we'll feel pretty good about it. I don't necessarily agree that's the way to go, but I think that's why they think we do have a quarterback. We have a former MVP quarterback. This guy, this is Aaron Rodgers. He's a beast. Did you see him play 18 years ago? He's really good. We get Deebo Samuel, another Commanders trade. Deebo Samuel traded from the 49ers Commanders for a 5th-round pick. What do you grades you got on this one?
I give the Commanders an A for this one because you're only giving up a 5th, and you're bringing in a guy who's capable of being an elite weapon in your offense to put opposite of a guy in Terry McLaurin who's already really, really good and established. You have an elite young quarterback. You're giving him tons of weapons now. I love this for them. They're going to be super scary next year, and he's going to be a big part of it. So I'm going to give it an A.
What about for the 49ers?
For the 49ers, it's kind of hard to read because they got rid of so much.
Yeah.
It's like if their plan was just to get rid of guys and get a bunch of draft picks and free up a bunch of cap space and all that kind of thing, then you got to give them a B for it. But they're going to be bad, so I can't give them anything higher than a C.
You keep saying they're going to be bad. Vegas doesn't think they're going to be bad.
I'll take that.
I'm just telling you, Vegas thinks they're going to be good. Vegas thinks they're going to be good this year. Vegas thinks they're going to be better than the Cowboys. I'll say that much. But look, I'll say for the 49ers, it's a D. I thought this was, you got to get more than a 5th for Deebo. I get he wanted to get paid again. I get there's all these different factors of why he wasn't there. Deebo Samuel is still a productive player for you. You could have gotten more for him if you weren't just trying to move him off. If you weren't trying to move him. It also kind of felt like a spite move to Brandon Ayuk a little bit because we know Brandon Ayuk really wanted to go to the Commanders to play with his old teammate Jaden Daniels, and they didn't make that trade, and then they re-signed him, and then the next year sent Deebo Samuel there. It just felt kind of like, I know it's probably not, but it felt like that a little bit to take less. I don't know how you don't get more than that for Deebo Samuel. I thought you could have got more for him, so I'll say that. And then on the other side, the Commanders, I give an A+. You gave up a 5th-round pick for a guy who, even though it might be a little bit of a headache sometimes in the locker room, can do a lot of different things for you, and you didn't even give him a new contract yet. So if it doesn't work, have a good one, man. See you later, Deebo. Go play free agency. And if it does work out, you give him his money.
Yeah, I just, if you look at this trade in comparison to the Steelers trade for DK Metcalf, I don't think that DK Metcalf is so wildly better than Deebo Samuel that there can be that variance in the draft pick. I think you got to get something higher, like a 3rd or a 4th at least.
I get it because so the big difference is DK Metcalf can get open and Deebo Samuel doesn't necessarily get open. Deebo Samuel can get schemed open. Deebo Samuel is a running back with the ball as a wide receiver. He has a lot of great things he does, but he doesn't necessarily get open. And so you have to really plan around Deebo Samuel. But the 49ers seem to be doing that just fine. And a lot of teams have receivers like that. You want to have a guy that you can get open. That's Brandon Ayuk for them. Ayuk is the guy who can get open for them. But they felt they had Ricky Pearsall. He's going to be a similar type guy. But still a 5th-round pick for a guy you can use in a lot of different situations. And if you're talking screens or anything else, I still feel you can use Deebo Samuel better than a lot of 5th-round pick guys that you can put into your offense. So I would go with that one. Then we'll get to our Texans trades as we start to get to the end of this. And actually, we'll throw the Cowboys one on last. So we'll grade that one too. The Texans acquire C.J. Gardner-Johnson and a 6th-round pick for Kenyon Green and a 5th-round pick to the Eagles. This is a big trade that sent C.J. Gardner-Johnson, a star safety, to the Texans. This was also part of the Texans' big offensive line blowout where they were trying to get rid of some of their guys. They sent Kenyon Green over to the Eagles to see if he'll be able to get into that offensive line that they're always trying to mix and match and find the right pieces for there in Philly, but they've had a lot of success. Where do you grade this for the Eagles and the Texans in a trade, in one of our few trades with 2 players?
Yeah, I think the Texans fleeced Philadelphia on this one, in my opinion. I give the Texans an A for this one. C.J. Gardner-Johnson's an awesome player. He's going to fit in just fantastically with what they like to do there on defense. And then you trade away one of the graded by PFF as one of the worst offensive linemen in the entire league. and you get him off your team, and you get to rebuild there. It's an A for the Texans. It's a C- for Philadelphia.
Yeah, so I have an A for the Texans, and I have a B for the Eagles, and I'll tell you why I have a B for the Eagles. Because they're the freaking Eagles. And that's the only reason. The only reason is because I'm with you. It feels like you got an offensive lineman who's not really going to do anything for you, and we traded picks, and we just got rid of him. And then it feels like the Eagles were like, oh, CJ Gardner-Johnson, we know we did an MRI on his knee, and it's hanging on by a thread, and his back's almost broken, so he's going to get hurt. And then we also know Kenyon Green has just been sandbagging for 2 years as part of our master plan to ruin the NFL. I don't know what they do, but I'm going to give them a B because I feel like they're going to be right somehow because they keep being right. And it's really annoying. Not a fan of this Eagles organization. I was talking to a friend, and it was like, you can't talk good about the Eagles. The Eagles suck. And I'm like, I don't like them. I want them to lose just like you do. But for my job, I have to be somewhat objective. And objectively, they're one of a few really, really well-run organizations right now in the NFL. So objectively, yes, they are really well-run. And I'm sorry the Cowboys are not. So that was sorry about that. Just objectively, let me say that.
I mean, you're probably right. It's probably going to blow up in the Texans' face somehow, but I choose not to put that evil out into the universe right now.
Kenyon Green's an all-pro. Like, what? Yeah. Then another Texans trade that I keep forgetting about. Christian Kirk, the Jaguars sent Christian Kirk to the Texans for a 7th-round pick. The Jags just unloading their receiving core. New general manager, new coach, and screw these receiver decisions that have been made before us other than Brian Thomas. We're going to get a new receiving core in there. They gave up Christian Kirk to the Texans. He does have a decent contract. He was the beginning of that wide receiver overpayment because I remember when he got paid, everyone went, Christian Kirk's not worth that kind of money. And then everyone else's was more than Christian Kirk's by a long margin. So they kind of started that. So it's a lot, but it's now probably the 25th highest paid wide receiver in the league. So it's not as bad as it used to be, but it's still a little bit. What do you think about the Texans taking on a little bit of salary to bring in another decent, pretty good wide receiver?
I give it a solid B. It's not the move that's going to change the trajectory of your franchise, but it gives you a legitimate number 3 wide receiver that's experienced and can get open and is very reliable with his hands and has the potential to make some big plays for CJ Stroud once he gets the ball into his hands. You needed receivers.
Yep.
And you got a pretty good one. And for the Jaguars, I don't really know what to make of it. I guess considering they're just trying to rebuild everything, you got to give them a B too, because with that contract, it becomes a little bit harder to rebuild over the next couple of years. And now you kind of got a little bit more of a fresh start. So I guess I'll give them both a B. It works out in different ways for both teams.
Yeah, I gave the Texans a B+ and the Jags a B. I know they were trying to move on and start a new era in that. I mean, now the good news is he's on the last year of that deal. So it's not like it's a long-term investment for the Texans either. This is another one that they're able to kind of work through, that he's not necessarily going to kill you at all on this. His deal is restructured though, so it's gonna hit a little bit. I'm not sure how much of that will stay on the Jags roster. I think that probably most of it stays on there. So it's really not super expensive for the Texans to end up doing, right? But you are making a trade, 7th-round pick for a guy that's maybe a rental for 1 year. I think it's a good trade for them. They're not getting stuck with anything major in that contract.
Yeah,
but
in the Jags, you're getting rid of a guy who you're probably not going to re-sign. You're getting a little draft capital back for him. So
yeah, and you're just trying to move away from kind of the old way. And they also let go of Gabe Davis recently, which I just saw the Gabe Davis thing was apparently a failed physical too, where they're saying that he's not, healthy enough to be playing, which that changes the trajectory of where his career goes after this. Because if he was just healthy, then I think there would be a lot of teams that would go look at him. But if he's got problems, then maybe not. But that they're just trying to reset. They do have 2 really good wide receivers now. So they're a long way from Christian Kirk and Gabe Davis with Brian Thomas and Travis Hunter. I think those are a little bit better wide receiver core for Jacksonville right now. But I'll give it a B+ to the Texans and a B to the Jags just to move on. And our final trade, the Steelers trade George Pickens and a 6th-round pick for the Cowboys' 3rd and 5th-round pick. What grades do you give here to the Steelers and to the Cowboys?
I want to give this an A. I have a hard time putting it at the same level as Devontae Adams, but damn it, Patrick, I'm a Cowboys fan, so I'm going to give it an A. I think this is an extremely low risk move for the Cowboys, and it's got a very high floor, and it has the potential to be a home run if things work out correctly. You only give up a 3rd-round pick, and you get a receiver who's statistically one of the best deep threats in the NFL. He's going to be a red zone menace for you. He's physical. He can win it. He can win in high point of ball and against in traffic and all these different things. It's a move that balances your offense. It opens things up for CeeDee Lamb. It opens things up for your running game. All the different things that the Cowboys needed to do that we were pointing at in the NFL draft, they did it with a trade for they basically used a 3rd-round pick to get George Pickens. And I think that's a home run. For the Steelers, it's okay. It's probably a B. Like, you get the 3rd-round pick, which you can find a good receiver in that draft and potentially replace him. I thought, at least in my head, when they traded for DK Metcalf, that they were going for an elite wide receiver group, and they were going to put both those guys out there and have a super physical, knock you in the mouth wide receiver group. And then they just get rid of them. So they're back to square one, and they get a 3rd-round pick next year. So I'll give them a B, I guess, maybe a C+.
Yeah, I go with a B for the Steelers. Now, they're going to get that elite receiver group with Allen Lazard coming in. That's the projected Allen Lazard trade that will be happening here shortly. And then, look, you gave an A. I'm giving them an A+. The Cowboys listened and did the right thing. I'm going to reward Cowboys for doing the right thing and getting a receiver, and a real one, not signing somebody that isn't not going out and getting Keenan Allen and being like, guys, we might have the best wide receiver core in the country in the NFL. I mean, I don't know. Has there ever been anybody who's had a wide receiver core with Jalen Tolbert level talent at the 3? I don't think so. That is terrible. I mean, we might as well just give us a trophy now, guys. I think they went out and got somebody. Yes, we talked about it a lot yesterday about, I get he's a problem, and the Steelers have a reputation of ditching guys right before they go nuclear. I don't feel like George Pickens was quite in that same group as an Antonio Brown, and maybe I'm off. Maybe he will implode, but he really feels like much more of a guy who just did not enjoy being in Pittsburgh, and maybe given a mouthpiece will be a problem, but not any more of a problem than Micah Parsons or anybody else on that team who has a mouthpiece and likes to talk a lot. That's a Cowboys thing. Michael Irvin used to do it back in the day. There was less people to talk to, but he would still talk to whoever listened. T.O. did it as well when he was there. So the Cowboys don't seem to mind that as much as some other programs. So I will give it an A+. They just did the thing. It's been like 3 years since they've actually gone out and done the right thing. So I'm going to give an A+ for doing the right thing, Cowboys. Good. Round of applause for the Cowboys. Stephen, Jerry, whoever it is. Round of applause. You did something. You did something, and I'm proud of you.
Yeah, and even if it blows up in their face and he becomes a huge problem and a distraction,
you did something.
He walks next year. So you're not tied down to him. So no. I love this move for them.
I'm all about it. That is our grades there of some of the bigger moves here in the NFL over the offseason. Since we did see George Pickens, I was looking into some of those other moves. Thought we'd talk about all of them, since there's not that. I mean, that's about 12 trades. And I mean, you could say the Christian Kirk one maybe isn't as influential in there, but I think you can find like 10, 11 trades or 10, 11 moves this offseason that really shift things. If we're not talking about re-signings, that's about the big moves we had. I don't know if I left any off that you thought were going to be there, that you say were big moves.
Can I throw one in there that I'm going to give an F?
What's that?
Dan Moore signing the massive deal with the Titans. He's probably the worst.
I did put that one in there.
He's probably the worst starting tackle in the NFL, and they signed him to a huge deal. So F for the Titans on that one.
Yeah, I'm not gonna. Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I mean, can you give it an F minus?
Is there anything lower than an F minus? Can I give it a Z?
Oh man, Dan Moore, take that. Use that whiteboard material and really go show up Matt by not allowing 45 sacks this season. I mean, what do you got to deal with? A rookie quarterback? That's never been a problem for someone taking sacks in the NFL. No. Let's talk a little NBA while we got a minute here, Matt, and get into the playoffs last night. We saw it again. So at the start of the playoffs, every game but until last night, the road team has won. The underdog had won every game so far. And then we went into the Celtics and the Knicks. And as it was rolling along, Boston basically had a healthy lead. They had a healthy lead. They're up 20 points in the third quarter. You know, they start to cut it down a little bit to New York. And then all of a sudden, New York turns it on. And it's with 8 minutes, 40 seconds to go in the first half. It's 84-68 Boston with 8 minutes and 40 seconds, right? When Boston scores to make it 84-68, 16-point lead. Then they get their next point with 2 minutes and 33 seconds to go. It is 85. It is now 86. Or I think that's right. Now we go with 3:08. It is now 85-77. So they have now caught back up. They keep scoring. Boston ends up with 90 points. They had 84 with the 8 minutes and 40 seconds. They had 84 points. They finished the game with 90 points. The New York defense lights up. They start shutting them down. Boston does what you're not supposed to do, and what every old head on my Facebook timeline will tell you: stop shooting threes. Stop shooting threes. They shot horribly in game one of the three-point percentage. They shot 25% last night as well, 10 for 40. This is a Boston team that was trying to put it together, really wasn't playing that well offensively the entire game, but was still being able to hold the Knicks. And the Knicks just turned it up in that last 8-10 minutes of the game, started playing much better basketball. Jalen Brunson starts doing what Jalen Brunson does. We saw Josh Hart, Karl-Anthony Towns, everybody start turning it up a little bit more, and they make that huge comeback to win 91-90 and take a 2-0 series lead over the Celtics. We do know Kristaps Porzingis is still dealing with that mystery illness that has been over a month now, or 2 months now. This is from March when he first had it, and he's kind of been better at points. And now we're in mid-May, and he's still saying that that's what's kind of taking him out, where he can't play big minutes and can't do anything. So I don't know what that is, and I hope it's nothing serious. I don't want anybody to get hurt or be sick or anything like that, but it keeps leaving you the question of what is going on with Kristaps Porzingis and what's going on with this rest of this Celtics team that cannot get it going. We saw Jason Tatum come back down, hit a big layup or hit a big dunk, just drives right down the court, hits a big dunk, takes the lead back. You're like, okay, Jason Tatum, last play of the game, takes it on the side, Bridges blocks him from behind, and Jason Tatum does not hit the game winner. It's a crazy first two games. The Knicks take a 2-0 series lead here in Boston.
Yeah, I didn't see this one coming. I thought Boston was going to blow them out. I was listening to Brian Windhorst earlier today. He believes that this could be the start of the end of what Boston is currently. And I kind of tend to agree with him, because this is kind of turning into a disaster. Like, I get that you were the number one seed in the Eastern Conference, but this is like, and you won a championship last year, but this just doesn't feel like the same team whatsoever to me. I'm more of the old school when it comes to basketball. Like, I agree they shouldn't have been shooting threes. Like, just get to the basket. Like, get to the basket, get to the free throw line, get some easy points. Just hold them off. You don't need to come down there and bury them by 60 by launching 43s. Like, I don't know. It just something feels off with Boston. New York just continues to shut them down and continues to be the team that, every time I think that they're going to take a step back, they come back and they take a step forward, and it kind of feels like they're the team of destiny in the East right now. It's kind of crazy.
No, and I'm with you. It does feel, and you can come back from this and you can figure it out, but this feels like a fat and happy Celtics team. That's what this feels like. This feels like a Celtics team that doesn't have anything left to prove. And Joe Mazzulla, I proved I'm a great coach. We won a title. So I proved it. I don't need to be out there and pressing these guys harder. Jaylen Brown just not having, he scores 20 points, but he does it on 23 shots. He's 8 for 23 in the game. He only goes to the free throw line a couple times. Like Jaylen Brown, that was normally your guy when Jason Tatum had an off night, which he did. He had 13 points on 19 shots, so not any better. But I expect that from Jason Tatum. I expect Jason Tatum to shrink in big moments. I've always expected Jason Tatum to shrink in big moments. I don't have that kind of confidence in him. Jaylen Brown, the difference last year, every time Jason Tatum shrunk, Jaylen Brown took that motivation and said, I'm the best player on this team. I'm going to go take care of business. And he doesn't feel like he's doing that anymore. Drew Holiday's a year older now, so his defense isn't necessarily as tight as it was. Derek White, I think, is still playing good basketball, but Al Horford's a year older, so he's not playing at the level he did last year. And you say maybe last season they just shot the ball lights out, and that meant no one could touch them because they hit those threes. And now they're just trying to take the threes, but they're not falling, and everything that they did was based around being hot from the three. They still play good defense. It was still 91-90. It wasn't like they were not playing defense. That's an old school 90s score. But it feels like this is a very fat and happy Celtics team. And I don't know if maybe going to New York will wake them up now that they get away from that home court. All season long, we saw them blow out bad teams. They blew out bad teams. Some of those games, they were done at halftime. They're up 30-something points at halftime. And they just fat and happy. We're better than everybody, but they weren't necessarily better than the best teams. They just blew out a bunch of bad teams and then, had good games. They weren't the number 1 seed in the East. The Cavs were the number 2 seed. They're still 61-21 though. They should be winning games in the playoffs. It just felt like this feels like so I can get that from Wendy. I'll say I'll save it because I still think they have some fight left in them, but this could be a change where you do see the front office of the Celtics, now that they do have new ownership as well, where they say, what happened? What happened that we sold the team and the team we just bought isn't the same team that we like? You showed us that you were this great team and now you're getting smoked at home in the second round. This is not even in the conference finals. We're getting smoked at home in the second round. I don't get what's happening. You could see them maybe make a move. You're probably not getting rid of Joe Mazzulla right away, because now it's coaches. Shoot, you get rid of a coach anytime now, so possibly. But this could be the end of Brown and Tatum if they eventually decide that is not a mix that works. I don't know if that's the right decision. I thought it was 2 years ago, and clearly I was wrong. So maybe it is now, but it does feel like this could be a really big, I'll say this, it's a really, really big game 3 now for the Boston Celtics, not just for this season, but overall as a franchise. Because if you're down 3-0 and you get knocked out in 4 or 5 games by the Knicks, how do you look at yourself in the mirror after a championship?
It's certainly hard to. What did we talk about earlier in this show when we were listening to Steve Sarkisian?
Yeah.
Entitlement, right? You call it fat and happy. I call it entitlement.
Yeah.
They feel like they're entitled to win this series and entitled to win the championship. And they're just going to go out there and do things the same old way, and that whatever they do is the best way, and we deserve it, so we're going to get it. And New York's basically looking them in the face and saying, hell no, you're coming through me, and we're going to beat you up until we get there. And, I don't – the way that they're shooting right now, like I would have assumed, like you did yesterday, that was going to fix itself after game 1, and they were going to come back and shoot a lot better in game 2. But now it's kind of starting to feel like they're not going to be able to do that in this series, and that they're going to have to figure out a different way to win games. And going on the road and trying to figure out a new way to win in a in a Madison Square Garden that's going to be out of control with that fan base that's so hungry. I don't know, man. It doesn't look good for them.
No, it doesn't. It's a crazy development. I mean, the fact that we're looking at 2-0 Knicks Pacers. And look, I'm all for Knicks Pacers. That's a great old school series as well. You think about those Reggie Miller years, the Knicks and the Pacers, and it was a lot of fun to watch that back in the day. I'm okay watching that series. I'd actually rather watch that series than Boston Pacers. I'd rather watch Knicks Pacers. I think it'd be more fun. But it's definitely a crazy turn of events there. And then we saw in the other game a team that is not entitled, that maybe just felt a little bit of entitlement for game one, but game two did not. Still a little hungry there. Still a little hungry. 149-106. OKC throttles Denver. It was never a game. Okay, I mean, you're in the first quarter and you're already talking like, don't let it get out of hand. Come on, guys, stay in the game. And it was just, there's nothing they could do. Defense was top notch. Offense was top notch. And this kind of is Denver's MO, that when they're getting beat, like, okay, you beat us. Cool. We'll come back next game. Like Jokic maybe disappears a little bit. He was fighting early, but I think in the second half, it was just like, all right, we're good. You got us. You got us. You caught us with a punch. We're good right now. And that just got slaughtered.
Yeah, I mean, you're down 31 at half, and you think, okay, if we get a few things to go right for us here in the second half, maybe we can push for a comeback and make this a game. And then all OKC comes out and does is outscore them 37-20 in the third quarter, go up by 48 going into the fourth quarter. So, yeah, it was never a game. I'm still not going to count the Nuggets out of this series because of Jokic, but it seems to me like Oklahoma City was a little rusty in game one. And that loss really woke them up, and now they're like back up. They're back, and they're looking pretty good.
No, and we talked a little bit about Jokic. How do you defend Jokic, and the officials being a part of that? And it's just games are officiated differently. He only got 5 free throws in the game, so if he's not able to get to the free throw line, and he's not able to get those guys to have to back off him a little bit from fouling him, he's just going to eat all day. And that was a problem, is he couldn't get there, and he was just get frustrated early on. They were playing him really tight. So credit to OKC. They answered the call last night, and I had some people texting me being like, did they lose again this offseason? Like, yeah, probably they lose again this offseason. But they did look really, really good. I'll give them that. They looked really, really good. They looked like the team that was built to do this. And it's kind of like we talked about in the Rockets not being a couple years off of the Thunder right now. And this is where the Rockets, you kind of wanted this game where you're like, no, respond and come back and really punch them in the face. And they never really had that real punch them in the face game. So we saw that though with Oklahoma City. That game one was a fluke is what they wanted to say. The game one was a fluke. We'll see if Denver is able to bounce back in that. Tonight, we do get to see the Warriors and Timberwolves. Unfortunately, Steph Curry is out. He is going to have to miss the next several games at least with the hamstring injury. That is not good. That's not good news for anybody. People watching the game, people in the game. Maybe for Timberwolves, it's a good piece. This defense is going to be really struggling, really smothering this Timberwolves team. But if you can't score, you're not going to win. So we could see another low-scoring game, but this one, it just doesn't. I mean, Minnesota, again, favored by 10.5 points in this game. They've got a big line on there. I don't know. It just feels like maybe this is too much for Golden State. Jimmy Butler's got to be playoff Hemi now.
Yeah, he has to have the ultimate Hemi Butler performance tonight if they're going to win this game, I think. I don't think Minnesota's going to come out and put up the same kind of offensive performance that they did in game one. I think that Anthony Edwards is going to really get after it. I just can't see a way that Golden State can win this game or this series without Steph Curry. I mean, you're taking one of the top 10 players of all time off of your team and hoping that, Jimmy Butler and a bunch of dudes that, it's not good for them. like I said yesterday, if this is really going to be the end of the Golden State era with Steve Kerr and Steph Curry and Draymond Green, I hate that it's going to happen this way. I was never a fan of those teams. I hated them to death, but it's still a historic run, and I hate to see it end this way.
Yeah, you don't want to see it end this way. Now, really what they need to do is win one out of the next two, or one out of the next three, I'll say. If you win one out of the next three, you're 2-2, and now you're sitting where we can rejudge the Steph Curry situation. And now it becomes a little bit more of a series where maybe you're able to get him back in a game 5 situation, game 6 situation. And so I think that's really where you're just like, we got to win 1 out of 3. 1 out of 3 we got to win. And tonight will be the example of, is it going to be possible at all? Are you in this game? Are you in it in the third, fourth quarter? Or is it just Minnesota going off now? Is all hope lost on this team? Does the defensive intensity slow down? Are there too many turnovers now because you don't have a flow in there? Did the offense slow down to a crawl where it's Jimmy Butler playing ISO and he doesn't pass the ball, so no one wants to be part of it? That's really what we're going to see tonight. So it's more kind of a judging of the rest of the series. But yeah, it is a historic run for the Warriors. And you heard that Steve Kerr and Steph Curry were crying, looking at each other, saying this. They felt this could be the last run. And now they've said that probably 10 times already, though. So we'll see what happens tonight. But looking forward to. Do you think that it's just 10.5 points? Where do you sit on 10.5 points?
I mean, I think it's going to be a low-scoring defensive game, so I probably think that Golden State covers. But if Golden State's going to have a shot, then Jimmy Butler has to have a game like Donovan Mitchell had the other day, where he scores like 48. Because I don't think they have really anybody else that could fill it up. I mean, Buddy Hield, I guess.
I mean, Buddy Hield's been playing great, but that's because he's playing off of Steph Curry.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't feel confident about it if I'm the Warriors. That's for sure.
No, I don't feel confident putting all of my cards in the guy's hands who wore the wrong shorts the other night. That really,
I still can't believe that, man.
Like, I've seen it happen before, but it's usually not a starter. It's usually someone off the bench who wasn't expecting to play.
And it's an OU guy, so it makes sense.
That's exactly. They don't teach you about shorts at OU. They missed that day. It's definitely that one surprised you when you're a starter that you just couldn't figure it out. And you're also like, how many shorts are in your locker on the road? Like, it seems like on the road that should be a little bit easier. Maybe at home they're not. You got more options, but yeah, came out in the wrong shorts.
And also, why did nobody, like, as they were coming out of the locker room, point it out to him either?
Well, because he's wearing the pants over him.
Oh, yeah, I guess
you're wearing the warm-up pants over them, so you don't know until you rip it off and then walk out there, and then you go, oh, crap. Oh, and I believe as soon as he did it, the Timberwolves were like, hey, that dude's not wearing the right shorts. Go get him. So we'll get that. We got to take our second break. When we come back, our meathead of the day, I pulled up a list of someone put together the top 10 toxic fan bases in college football. And I want to go through the top 10 toxic fan bases. If you guys got who you think is the most toxic fan base in college football, let us know on the chat or the text line who is the most toxic fan base. We'll get into that list. We'll see if the Longhorns make it. I have a feeling the Longhorns make it, but we'll get into that when we come back here on Open Gym here on Texas Sports Unfiltered.
Hi, this is Tom McKay, owner of Audiovisual Consultations.
I got this, Dad. This is Camilla McKay, and my dad can help with any TV or stereo needs you have around your house. Just call him, and he will come to you with advice and a great price. And the guys that work for him are awesome. They can install anything, anywhere. So, like my dad says, just relax and smile. We handle all the work.
So just give us a call at 255-8678 or on the web at avconsultations.com.
McCall Custom Homes. If you're thinking about doing a renovation of a bathroom, the kitchen, maybe some extended outdoor space, you want someone who's going to bring you custom renovation. And that's what Mike McCall Custom Homes is all about. Been doing it at a high level in Austin for 40 years. Father-son team with tons of experience, and they care about the details. They care about bringing you custom work because they want you to refer them to your friends. So get over to McCall Custom Homes, ATX.com. McCall Custom Homes, ATX.com. Check out the work. You can check out the work on social media as well at McCall Custom Homes. But you want, when it comes to your home, you want a trusted ally and someone who's going to bring value, added value to your home and a great living experience. And that's what McCall Custom Homes is all about.
BK here for OLIPOP. Man, this stuff is the game changer of all game changers. Their slogan is a new kind of soda, and that's exactly what it is. You get that same great soda taste, but OLIPOP is actually good for you. Inside of every can, a blend of 7 unique botanicals, plant fibers, and prebiotics. You're getting 9 grams of fiber in every can, only 2 to 5 grams of sugar, and man, the flavor is absolutely there. Classic soda flavors like cola, root beer, lemon lime, and Dr. Goodwin. That's their version of a Dr. Pepper, and some other great flavors as well. The grape, the cream soda, the cherry cola. It's all fantastic. I'm telling y'all, OLIPOP tastes just like the soda you grew up sipping, but with the added benefits of microbiome and digestive health support as well. Pick up OLIPOP at H-E-B, Target, Walmart, Whole Foods, and Costco all throughout the Austin area and the state of Texas. And head over to drinkolipop.com. Use the promo code Texas20 for a discount on your first purchase. It's OLIPOP, a new kind of soda.
Back here on Open Gym, here on Texas Sports Unfiltered, wrapping it up on a Thursday afternoon. It's a late Thursday, you know, one basketball game tonight. You know what I tell you? I did end up watching the end of that Stars game last night. I watched some of the Stars game because the Nuggets game was such a blowout. That OKC Nuggets game was such a blowout. I'm like, I don't want to watch this anymore. So I put it on the Stars game. It was pretty good. For you hockey fans, I watched it. It was fun. It was fun for like a little bit. When they scored all those goals real quick, that was really fun. And then the rest of it, not as much. But when they scored all those goals really quick, and then like the last couple minutes of them trying to make sure they didn't get scored against, that was fun to watch. And then that Mikko guy, I think Mikko is his name.
Miro Heiskanen.
I think so. Yeah, whatever it is. He's really good.
So the Stars won, I assume. I totally forgot to watch it.
Yes, they did. They scored 3 goals pretty quickly, and then I think they went 3-2.
Nice. Yeah, go Stars. I forgot to watch it. I was up late, you know, doing some other things and watching Creed 3. So
I was watching a great Pacers Knicks game, and then the next game was not good, and so I was like, let me go see. I'll go root for the Texas team. I'll try and listen to these people who say hockey's still not my sport, but you know, it's better than hockey. It's probably better than soccer. So
I'll tell you this, Patrick. Have you ever been to a hockey game?
Yeah, a few times. I've never been to an NHL game. I can say that. I've definitely been to multiple Austin Ice Bats games. I can tell that, and I think I've been to a Texas Stars game once too.
If you ever get the opportunity, go to a Stars game. It is the best atmosphere in professional sports for Dallas. Like, of all the Dallas teams, it's the most fun and energetic and best atmosphere by far. I love going.
I like it. All right. There's a list that I saw pop up the other day, and then I thought we could finally get to it today, but it is a list of the most toxic fan bases in college football. This is by Elite College Football. If you want to follow them, Elite College Football is who put this list out. So we will present to you. I have image files to go down this list with you guys. Your 10th most toxic team is a Michigan. In Michigan, they're at 10 to 6.8. So we're going up from a 6.8 toxicity rating. They didn't give too many examples of what their reason for toxicity of any of these teams, but you can kind of get the picture that this is for fan bases that are very loud, maybe not nice to other people, fan bases that are going after opponents, and fan bases that maybe don't have rational expectations.
Yeah, Michigan's on my list too. I have my own top 10 that we can probably run through at some point, but Michigan's definitely on my list. I don't have them at number 10. I have them a little higher than that.
All right.
Michigan fans are quite obnoxious.
Number 9, Florida State. Florida State probably got on this list a little bit more after missing the college football playoffs. and how awful that discussion was with any Florida State fan. We're like, no, but look at it objectively. Y'all don't deserve to be in. You're going to lose. No, but if your team's not that good. We won the game against bad opponents. You're going to get destroyed. Your quarterback's not good enough. And that conversation a couple years ago maybe puts them on this list.
I don't know anything about Florida State fans. I've never had any interaction with them, but they're from Florida, so I'm okay with them being on this list.
I didn't know how many I knew until they didn't make the playoffs because Jordan Travis got hurt. And then they all came out of the woodwork on that one. Number 8, most toxic team, Alabama. We know it. They've won. I'm surprised they're this low on the list, but I guess it's because they're not as spread out over the country as some other fan bases. So, maybe they're more localized into Alabama is why they're not as toxic.
Yeah, I have a lot of experience with Alabama fans. They are way higher on my list. I can't even tell you some of the stories on this show that have happened to me in around Alabama people. So they're way higher on my list.
I have plenty of friends who are Alabama fans, and they're great people. Great people. Number 7. Hey, Longhorns make the list. Number 7 most toxic fan base. I won't comment too much, but I get why we're on there.
I understand why Texas is on there. Just look at the way that fans treated Quinn Ewers over the last 3 years.
Number 6 most toxic fan base goes to Tennessee. The Tennessee fan base scaring a poor Nico out of a contract. All he wanted was $4 million or something. Come on, Tennessee fan base.
This is pretty well placed. If you go back and you watch the Ole Miss Tennessee game from a couple years ago where Lane Kiffin got a mustard bottle thrown at him, you'll understand why these people are crazy and they deserve to be on the list.
All right, your number 5 most toxic team, according to Elite College Football, is the Miami Hurricanes, another Florida team. This is another team that hasn't been good enough lately, but still comes out in the full woodwork.
Yeah, I haven't had too much interaction with them, but being in Florida and especially in Miami where the people are just awful all around, I can see how they would be terrible. Miami people are just the worst.
Let's go to our number 4 most toxic team. Our number 4, Colorado. This doesn't feel like it was a few years ago, but now they're going to be on the list because of Deion Sanders. And you've got a ton more Colorado fair weather fans, I think, in the last couple of years. And that is why they jump up on this list, because there is a lot of Colorado football fans who don't really care about Colorado, have never even been to the state of Colorado, but love this team because of Deion Sanders.
Yeah, it's just it feels like new money kind of thing, and I hate it. It reminds me of Baylor when Baylor had RG3. Just awful.
Yeah. So these are all the people. This is Mel Kiper falls into this list. Your number 3 most toxic team on this poll is Georgia. You keep winning, you keep getting more toxic. They have to fall into the toxicity of pretending that their players don't have a problem with driving recklessly as well, and explaining away anything else. So Georgia gets your number 3 most toxic fans.
Yeah, they bark at you, like actually bark at you in real life. So they are definitely a toxic, weird group of people. That's for sure.
They were, I will say, when I went to the game last year, the guys that were near me were very nice. It was funny because there was like 2 really nice guys, and then a third guy came down later who was like really decked out for it. And you could tell he was not as necessarily nice as them, because that was when they're like, oh, we're winning. We're just going to kind of be dry. I was like, all right, I like the other guys better. They were nicer than you. Our number 2 on this elite college football list of the most toxic fan bases is the Florida Gators.
Yeah,
I have sticking in Florida.
I have a personal thing with Florida fans. They have come after me on social media for multiple things, for like really absolutely no reason, but just because they're crazy and they thought they were going to get me. I ended up being right. So F you, Florida. And yeah, you deserve to be higher probably.
Well, there's only one team higher, and I'm guessing you can. Do you have a guess here?
Ohio State.
Oh, it has to be Ohio State. It's your
it's
a full perfect 10 on the toxicity rating scale. Ohio State. I heard somebody once said you need to give Ohio State credit that their lunacy and inability to accept reality forced Ohio State to win a national championship. That if they were like reasonable fans, they wouldn't have won a title, but because they're so ridiculously over the top that they make it.
Yeah, I've never been around a worse group of people in my entire life. Ohio State fans are just the worst thing I've ever experienced.
That was a really tough game to watch last year because it was people that I didn't know liked football, people that I didn't know cared about this at all, coming out of the woodwork to go be a jerk around you because of Ohio State. You're like, come on, man. Like, you don't care about this at all. Why are you pretending to care now? No, I care. Yeah, go down your list.
My top 10 real quick. Okay, I've got Ohio State number 1. I have Mississippi State number 2.
Okay.
I have Alabama number 3, Florida number 4, Iowa number 5, Michigan number 6, Georgia number 7, Tennessee number 8, Texas A&M number 9, Texas 10.
All right. So you put Roy's guy right. Aggie should be on that list as well. Yeah. Hey, you know what the funny part is? No one cares. So they're not even toxic enough because they're not even relevant enough in the discussion. We got to get out of here. We'll be back to wrap up the week on a big Friday afternoon show. Get you ready for your weekend tomorrow. But until then, be kind, be safe, keep your underwear clean. We'll see you right back here tomorrow for more.